Good evening, Yorktown, and welcome to the town board meeting for Tuesday, October 6th. If everyone can please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. If you could please join me in a moment of silence as we remember our brave soldiers protecting our freedoms overseas, as we pray for those inflicted with and battling COVID-19, as we remember those 200,000 lives that we have lost to COVID-19, and may we continue to pray for the safety of our first responders, our police, our firefighters, our EMTs, and all the frontline workers who continue to perform incredible work on behalf of our community. Thank you. I guess I got everybody tonight because no one jumped in. All right.
Actually, Matt, Eddie Van Halen passed away today.
Oh, you're right.
What?
I didn't.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. Throat cancer. 65
How old
years
was
old.
he?
65.
Wow.
So
Wow.
none of us are immune from Father Time.
Nope.
Yeah, you're right.
Quick introductions. Again, Supervisor Matt Slater, joined by Councilman Tom Diana, Councilwoman Alice Roker, Councilman Ed Lachterman. On the phone joining us is Councilman Vishnu Patel. We are joined by our town clerk, Diana Quast, and the man who never blinks, our highway superintendent, Dave Paganelli, with his picture on the bottom there. We're also joined by our town attorney, Adam Rodriguez.
I also don't blink.
You also don't blink. You're right. Happy to provide some updates on the town. We have quite a few things I just want to touch upon briefly. Let's start with COVID. 32 active cases in the town of Yorktown as of today. That's an increase of 5 from yesterday. Obviously, we're seeing the numbers, continue to increase on an upward trajectory. This is not Yorktown specific. We're seeing this both regionally, statewide, and nationally. Westchester County has 608 active cases today, which is an increase of 83 from the day prior. I spent time today talking with the Commissioner of Health for Westchester County, Dr. Shalita Amler, and we've talked about this time and time again, and we're just going to reemphasize the same 3 basic steps. Wear a mask, social distance, and wash your hands. Those are the big 3. And if we can continue to do that, and if we can focus on those 3 items, just like we did in the spring in flattening the curve, we're going to be able to battle this latest increase as well. I mentioned it earlier on an update that I did. Of course, our schools are starting to become impacted. The Yorktown High School, Lakeland High School, and Walter Panis High School started this week all on remote, all because of COVID-related items. I have remained in constant contact with Dr. Lyons from Lakeland and Dr. Hatter from Yorktown, as well as both school board members from both school boards. They really have done just a tremendous job. And I just want to make sure that the residents of Yorktown know that the things that they've implemented, the policies they've implemented, really have been fantastic. And I can tell you firsthand, because I'm a parent with a kid in one of our elementary schools. So I see it every day. And so really to our teachers, to the faculty, the staff, to the administration, we know that it's a hard time, but we know that you're doing great work. So we hope that you keep it up. So Commissioner Amler, Dr. Amler also wanted to emphasize a couple of things to my fellow parents. This is not a time for sleepovers. This is not a time for large parties or large gatherings. And as a reminder, if you're waiting for a COVID test, whether for your child or yourself, please don't go out. Don't start socializing. Don't let your kids go to a soccer game. We need to make sure that the test comes back negative. And so we're going to be working with our Parks and Rec department. I was explaining to the board earlier, we're going to be implementing a few new policies that I discussed both with our Parks and Rec superintendent. I also discussed with some members of the Parks and Rec Commission this morning that we're going to be rolling out hopefully later this week to help ensure that we keep all of our kids safe when they're using town facilities. Dr. Amler also wanted to emphasize the importance of getting your flu vaccine. And actually, we're going to be working with the Westchester County Health Department to partner them with our food pantries to provide the flu vaccine to our most needy residents. And we're going to talk to them about possibly as well with our senior nutrition center, a way of partnering with them as well, if that's possible. Earlier today, Governor Cuomo added the state of New Mexico to the travel advisory list. And if you've been watching the news, you know there are 20 hot spots based on their zip codes. It's not just New York City. It includes Orange County and Rockland County. So again, we have to make sure that we stay focused. And for those who are looking for testing sites, where can you go get a COVID-19 test? The link is right on the town's website. It's right on our COVID community impact dashboard. It's in partnership with the Department of Health, and it provides all the different medical facilities in and around Yorktown that provide the COVID testing. So that's a quick COVID update. Some updates regarding town operations. I'm not going to steal too much thunder from our highway superintendent, but he really deserves a tremendous round of applause because we've learned this week that the state is going to be withholding 20% of our CHIPS money, which, as we all know, goes towards paving, but he continues to do just a tremendous job. And we're confident we're going to be able to continue with some of the important paving projects in our local roads. In addition to that, I also heard from folks in Albany that right now grants are on hold too. And there are a number of grants that we've been working on, state and municipal grants specifically, that we were hoping to see come to fruition, that are going to help improve some of our facilities, some of our parks. But all of those things are now officially on hold because of the financial impact of COVID and the financial state of New York. From some of our departments, happy to report that the renovation of our Section 8 office is nearly complete. Karen Perez continues to do a terrific job. We started I believe we started the pour for the deck at Junior Pool. As a reminder, Junior Pool was closed this year because we had to stop construction over there. And so that construction has now thankfully started with the good help of our Parks and Rec department and our building maintenance staff. Our senior nutrition center, our staff over there, you talk about gold stars and MVPs. I mean, they're at the top of the list with what they're doing. And they just started serving the town of Cortland this week, so adding more to their weekly load, which is great. Our water department, we've been trying to share, has started their fall hydrant flushing program. And so we've been updating both on the website and social media emails have been going out as well as to what streets are the hydrants are being flushed. The generator for French Hill has been ordered. And also I want to let everyone know that you're probably going to be receiving another notice in the mail. As a reminder, on May 5th, a water sample was collected at the Yorktown Central Garage. Again, this was a specific pipe that only feeds 3 buildings, no residential areas. It's all town facilities. That pipe had one particular DBP that tested higher than what is accepted. And we believe the reason for that, frankly, was because of COVID, because we didn't have our staff in, and it was actually just stagnant water, and the line itself is very long going from 202 to our buildings. Happy to report, and I said this earlier, that between August 6th and August 7th, they retested, and the levels came back perfectly fine, perfectly normal, but the testing requirements are on a rolling average. And so, despite the fact that we did not have any violations or any acids that may have been above the acceptable marks, we still have to renotice the town. So the violation is expected to continue each quarter until May 5th is expected to continue each quarter until the May 5th, 2020 water sample is no longer included in the calculation. So it could be a year before that's no longer included in the calculation. So just an FYI for residents that you're going to be getting another notice in the mail in the coming weeks. Update on fluoride. The 2 contractors are at our facility off of Old Crampon Road. They're going to be there for the next few months, and we expect that project to be fully completed by March of 2021. Happy to report that the pump station project, our first phase, is nearly completed, and this has been an ongoing project for quite some time. We learned today there was I believe it was February, the health department issued a violation that was put to bed today at a health department hearing. It was settled, and a $4,000 fine was assessed to GHD, not the town of Yorktown, but to the consultant on the job. As a reminder, there's smoke testing that's beginning, approximately 700 addresses. This is really just to see if there are any illegal connections to our system, and there's a map on the town's website. And with that, there are just a few more good things to talk about. This Friday, October 9th, Relay for Life, Paint the Town Purple. So we're going to be out on Commerce Street early in the morning throughout the day. So feel free to drive by and support Relay for Life, which is one of Yorktown's great organizations. Also on the weekends, be on the lookout for the Alliance for Safe Kids #WalkTheTalk. I was able to join them this past weekend here at Veterans Field as we walk the track. And I believe this weekend it's at the mall. And last two things for my fellow Halloween fans. There's going to be our first annual Halloween crawl in conjunction with the Yorktown Lions. Obviously, Halloween's going to be a little different this year, so we're trying to make the best of it. So if you're decorating those houses and you're getting really into it, please submit your pictures online and join the Halloween crawl so we can go see some of the great decorated houses in the town of Yorktown. And final reminder, this Thursday, October 8th, 7:30, is the first work group meeting for the Yorktown Coalition on Community Safety and Engagement. And that'll be done virtually, just as it would for a town board meeting. And all that information is on the town's website. And that concludes my report to the town. I'll just start going over, and we'll start with Councilman Diana. You can unmute yourself and give us a report there, Councilman.
There we go. Good evening, Yorktown. Hope everybody's having a good week. I'd just like to start out by saying let's keep the COVID numbers down. Remember your masks and wash your hands frequently. That's most important. Supervisor and I had a meeting today for anybody that was concerned about the buses parking on the roadway down by the bus garage on Front Street. There was about 15 or 18 buses that had been parking there. The reason being is the new bus company had taken over and they were clearing out old stock that couldn't be put on the road due to DOT regulations. So they had their new buses parked there. They are down to about 4 or so that park there on a nightly basis, and they will be removed as soon as they can clear out their junk, which should be very shortly. So that's one thing. Friday between 4:30 and 6 p.m. we're going to do a Cops and ice cream cones up at Granite Knolls, sponsored by Mr. Softy. That will be once again this Friday from 4:30 p.m. to 6 p.m. So our police officer should be there. I would imagine probably a couple of the canines will be there, maybe even a motorcycle or two. So if you'd like to attend up there, that would be great. Remember social distancing and your masks, please. Let's keep the COVID down. That kind of segues me into a resolution I'd like to read. Does anybody have a preference whether I read it now? It would be for blue lights on, or would you rather I read it in at the end of the meeting?
No, I want you to read it now.
Okay. This is a resolution that was actually I kind of plagiarized it from a councilman up in Fishkill who started a blue lights on for the Hudson Valley. And I thought it was a laudable cause, only because not only our police officers, but all of our first responders have done such an awesome job during this pandemic that we've had. And this is just one small way that we can support them. So I'd like to read this if I can. Okay, whereas the current year, 2020, has been marked by tense social divisions exacerbated by a world pandemic, and whereas this year has presented unique challenges, and whereas the burden of facing these challenges has fallen disproportionately upon our first responder community, and whereas these challenges have heavily impacted our local police departments and first responders throughout our great country, and whereas our current political atmosphere finds it convenient to unjustifiably malign our men and women in blue, and whereas all that respect the truth know full well that our local police departments and first responder ranks are filled with highly dedicated men and women willing and able to defend our freedoms, our liberties, and our way of life. And whereas public and community leaders, it is our duty to call out the wrong and stand by the good. And whereas the code 1013, which is officer in need of assistance, the universal code for officer in need of assistance, be it hereby resolved that by this proclamation, we hereby declare October 13th, 2020, which is also 1013, to honor our local police departments and first responders day. This is in recognition thereof. We ask that all those who wish to, this is totally voluntary, and if you wish to support our first responders and give deserved thanks to our local police and first responders, to set a blue light on their property, front porch or your front light by your house, and just turn it on for 1013, just for one day. I think it would show a lot of support for our first responders and police department. And I'd like to make a motion to accept 1013 as First Responders Day.
Awesome.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? No. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, everybody. That's all I have.
Councilwoman Roker, report to the town.
Okay. Tommy, I'm going to jump off of what you did. You called me a couple of weeks ago and said you were going to, you wanted to propose the resolution, and I thought it was a great idea.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Alice.
And I told you what I was going to say, because I think what I've got to say has to be said. Anyone who knows me knows that I will always support the men and women of our Yorktown Police Department. I know many of them. In fact, I have sworn in many of them. Unfortunately, there are far too many people in our community who seek to divide us. They say you cannot possibly support Blue Lives Matter while supporting Black Lives Matter. And I say, yes, I can. I support Black Lives Matter because my life matters. A couple of weeks ago, and I've gone over it with the board, someone, because I spoke up, felt the need to harm me, to almost harm me. My daughter, Courtney, her life matters. My son, Gregory, his life matters. And many people have heard me talk about that discussion that I had with my son when he became a teenager. It's that discussion that far too many, that all African-American parents have with their teenage sons. Unfortunately, it seems like I'm going to have to, that if I had a teenage daughter, I would have to have that with her as well. And I'm saddened about it. We're in the United States, and this is the year 2020. I do not support defunding the police. It's, if I had my wish, they would get more funding, because every dime we give them, we can see as a good use. Now let's talk about Blue Lives Matter. Not only do I support Blue Lives Matter, I wholeheartedly support it. My father was a police officer. His life mattered to me. My cousin and my uncle, who are officers in Massachusetts, their lives matter to me. Every man and woman in the Yorktown Police Department, their lives matter to me. Not only because I sit on the town board, but because I know them. Over the summer, I was proud to see young people march in the town of Yorktown, and they actually said Black Lives Matter. Although many adults came to listen, I wish many others had come as well. They were not promoting any radical agenda. What they had to say boils down to a few simple words: treat everyone equally. They questioned the wisdom of the school districts in Yorktown for their lack of diversity. And they spoke about some people who they say were not treated fairly in town. Yorktown for Justice similarly challenged me and others about the amount of history that we provide in the town of Yorktown. And I explained that in order to do what they wanted me to do, we would need more funding. At the end of it, I decided, and my former record clerk decided, to volunteer and work to allow much more historic information to be provided to the community. I was disappointed when Yorktown for Justice was not provided a seat on the community task force. These are people from different walks of life, but they have one thing in common. They are all Yorktown residents. I believe their agenda is simple: treat everyone equally. While other members of the board may disagree with me, it is okay, because we have always agreed sometimes to disagree. I'm going to end with a quote from a military general during World War II. The nation will remain the land of the free only so long as it is the home of the brave. And that speaks to our ingenuity and our spirit of inclusion. And I just needed to say that because I think this community, which I came to in 1985 and love, is tragically being divided.
The incident that happened to Alice was something that was an absolute ridiculous thing to happen to her for being a council member and speaking her mind. Alice and I go back a long way, and she's always been a fair and accommodating person, spoken her mind the way she felt, and that's the way it should be. And Alice, I'm sorry that had happened to you in this town. It's like I spoke out about when we had the storm back in the big March storm a couple of years ago. And I was appalled by the way the Yorktowners, let me just back up, had spit at and cursed at the Highline workers that were out there from Quebec, for God's sakes, to try and help us. That is unacceptable behavior at any level. What happened to you was unacceptable. Everybody has the right to their opinion. And,
I love this town. I
absolutely
love the town of Yorktown.
It's, and like I said, and I back you up 110% on it.
And I appreciate each one of you for being kind to me.
Yeah,
I really do.
It was an absolute ridiculous thing that you had to be frightened to the point that you almost had to pull into the police station to regain your composure, because someone was trying to run you down, basically. So, that being said, it's an appalling thing to think that is what's happening in not only our town, but towns across the country.
Yes.
Well said, Councilman Diana. And I think we've all reached out to Councilwoman Roker after hearing her incident.
You did. You guys were kind.
And I think that the board has already in multiple occasions passed resolutions unanimously condemning all forms of hatred, all forms of bigotry. And I think we stand by those resolutions as a statement on behalf of this entire community. And, it's very upsetting what happened to Councilwoman Roker, because frankly, it can happen to anybody then.
That's right.
And it's just unacceptable. It's unacceptable as a Yorktowner, someone who grew up here, someone who's raising their kids here. That's not the Yorktown that I'm a part of. That's not the Yorktown that I worked my butt off for every single day. And I think I speak for the entire board and our town clerk and our highway superintendent by saying that, because we work for the good of this town. We recognize the good of this town. And what motivates us is to be able to point to the good of this town. And there's plenty of it. There's most definitely plenty of it. And that's what keeps us going. But we need to stand firm against any type of action, any type of hatred, any type of, and it's really also bullying that Councilwoman Roker experienced. And regardless of the motivation, it's just wrong. We can agree to disagree on many issues. And we talked about it just, I think, last week or the week before with Justice Ginsburg. You can be on opposing sides.
Absolutely.
But still be friends and neighbors.
That's right.
And that's something that I think this board has done a tremendous job of emulating. And I think the town recognizes it. I think the town appreciates it. And I said it when we recognized Justice Ginsburg, and I'll say it again. My Wednesday call. Who's my first call on Wednesday? Councilwoman Roker, right? And we could disagree all night, and I still look forward to that call on Wednesday. And
absolutely.
That's that level of respect that we have to maintain, not just us as a board, but us as a community.
Yes.
And that's the key point. And so we understand and we recognize that there are people who, for whatever reason, are not going to emulate the Yorktown way. And that's just a shame, because you're going to give this town a black eye, quite frankly. But I know that there are many of us all across the community who work together to bring out the best in the town that we all love.
Mm-hmm.
Councilman Lackerman, report to the town.
Well, first, Councilwoman Roker, I find it a shame that people, first off, assume a conclusion from words that they hear, because I guess you basically felt that they thought that you didn't support police, and I don't know one member of our board, past or present, that has not supported our police, to a large degree. And right now, I think there's a tremendous amount of support for the Yorktown Police Department on our current board.
Absolutely.
I used to always tell my daughter, if you have an issue, speak to me. I never gave, the answer was never yes or no. This is why. And if you have a problem, you should speak to people. And, we all look out different windows. We all have different perspectives in life. And our paths have all been different, and we see things in a different way. So without listening and asking and hearing those stories, you don't know what's happening. And you really can't, it's just disgusting to just say, I'm going to jump to a conclusion and let me hate the person for it.
Yeah.
It's a shame. It really is. And, maybe, and I was going to say maybe on the national level, but you know what, you could read local Facebook posts and see it. Maybe people should, if you have a problem, ask a question. If you don't like it, agree to disagree no need to be nasty. No need to be rude.
Absolutely.
No need to be filled with hate. So, and, even us, the way we do community service, I'm Lions, you're Rotary. So, we look at different avenues there. And
absolutely.
We have a couple of Elks out there too on here. So
the Lions eat the Elks though, Ed. Okay. I'm a little bit upset about that.
Yes, we do. So, other than that, a couple of things that I wanted to go over. First, I wanted to wish all who celebrate the Jewish New Year, now that we are through Yom Kippur, a very happy and healthy New Year, and may everyone's names be inscribed in the Book of Life, so we can have that. But I do want to say, as we were talking about police, a special thank you. Our police department, I know, has received thank you letters from the rabbis in town and the Jewish community about the stepped up proactive patrols for the High Holy Holidays, and it is very appreciated. Unfortunately, in this world today, and there's a lot of hate out there, and to know that our police department is proactive and out there helping is a very big comfort when you're in services. For those also knowing that people have our back, United for the Troops on Saturday, October 17th, will be organizing a food drop-off. Flyers will be out shortly, but you can go to unitedforthetroops.org to find out what they're looking for. And we will be doing that in the commuter parking lot next door to Town Hall. In conjunction with that, Chef Rob on Wheels will be cooking and donating a portion of his sales back to United for the Troops as well as a little give back. So it'll be in the commuter lot Saturday, 10/17, probably starting at 10 or 11 in the morning. And more information will be out by the next meeting, I hope. And then the last thing I had on my list, Paul Martin, who normally creates the Veterans Day Parade for the town of Yorktown, with the problems with parades where you can't socially distance with all the people, gathering around on the side street, was talking about this in our last Sons of the American Legion meeting. And we are working on trying to do a reverse parade for Veterans Day, where the veterans are sitting outside socially distanced, and then the cars come by, and we could decorate cars and show our appreciation for our veterans, and not
That's great.
not let Veterans Day go by without them being recognized.
That's great.
That'll be on Sunday, November 8th. It's always the closest Sunday to Veterans Day. And, we're looking forward to that. And we will probably change the location for this year and do it on Veterans Road. Okay. So the veterans can line up by their respective VFW and American Legion Hall. Okay. And that is it for me for now.
Councilman Patel, report to the town.
Last one is the best and shortest, and I will not repeat anything other than the COVID issue, okay? Alice, your good name will shine forever.
Thank you, Vishnu.
Alice, Mahatma Gandhi said a long time ago, and let me just say something, maybe good or not, but sometimes what you think, what you say, and what you do, they have to be in harmony. And the political seasons, from top to bottom, sometimes people, where are you? We are all the human being and we help each other, and that's the only reason people come to Yorktown, really. There was, when Nancy Elliott was there, she wrote about 30-some years ago in the New York Times, there was an article. The reason people come to Yorktown is school, safety, easy commute, and then those are the really basic things, I mean, you cannot bring the Wall Street here, okay? We don't have that kind of transportation in the news, so people used to come and sleep. And as thing goes, we have to move forward to make something better, maybe the business come, but then the business come and business close too, depending on, you can start some business and it may not work because now everything is getting online. So many, that 13,000 different kind of franchise type and all the business goes. But then the new way of coming, so this is my thought, that I think respect has to be given. Respect you earn and then give you respect. I think it has to work like that, and everybody will be happy. Now, in a reference to the COVID, let me just say, really, our town is doing good. The government, the town official, everybody, police department, the ambulance, fire department, everybody, the hospital workers. I have many doctors in my family, so I know when the president of the United States, one time he went there, and a very few people and all that. My niece, and she was at my inauguration. She was the lead doctor over there. She's infectious disease specialist. So people are helping each other. And look at that. Nobody's going to tell you whether what color, what language you speak, what you feel. These people, they go and help. If there is a fire, they're not going to tell you whether what kind of Democrat, Republican, white, whatever. So this is the kind of dedication have in our community to help each other. That's really wonderful, wonderful thing happening in our small community. So keep the Yorktown clean, green, and beautiful. One more thing I want to tell you. I was there on a Saturday, and I just happened to pass by. My wife went to get something in the CVS, and I came to check it out. 10 kids were on a big bicycle. They were making like a circles on a gazebo, really. And then I went there, oh man, look at any beautiful gazebo, this is for you to enjoy. But then I just said, you may get hurt. And then the guy said, I jump it from here on the road all the time, all the stairs. And I'm a pro. I tell him, listen, please don't do this. Look at how this is shaped up. Then I call the police. So I urge people, all the students, come and enjoy you are bored at home, maybe bike ride, but be safe, whatever you do, because if you get hurt or if you get the COVID, whatever it is, you're going to be such a miserable, and I don't want to wish to anybody like that. So in the end, I want to say 3W, wear mask, and safe distance, always remember, watch your distance and wash hand, because health is a wealth. And, if you have a bad health, the money is not going to make you a big difference because you've been so much trained, And I think now the President of the United States also realized that the COVID is not going to make you happy, really. I mean, health is more important than anything else. We should work together, encourage everybody to live happy life in our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Patel. I know we have a report actually from our town clerk regarding the upcoming election.
Okay. Just some reminders. Today, October 9th, this Friday, is the last day to register to vote in the general and presidential primary. October 27th is the last day to request an absentee ballot. We've been advised that 5 of our polling locations have been changed. Districts 1 and 28, which normally vote at the St. Mary's Episcopal Church, has been changed to the Lakeland High School at 1349 East Main Street. And election districts 8, 18, and 43 have been moved from the Yorktown Assisted Living, formerly the Seabury, to the Walter Panis High School, 300 Croton Avenue, Cortland Manor. Yorktown only has one early voting location that I know of, and that's the Albert A. Cappellini Community and Cultural Center gym. And that begins on October 24th and will run through November 1st. Please, if you have any questions, please contact my office at 914-962-8152. Thank you.
I have a question for the town clerk. There are some paper already being distributed, the location of each, earlier voting, as well as everybody must have gotten so far. I have gotten it. Your where you will be voting during the general election on election day. So is there any way we can continuously publicize it? We are trying to do it, but maybe some people don't know. If one or two places where there is a new location, we can have somewhere, maybe announce on a radio station week before or something. Because sometimes, because of people used to get a ride, somebody gives a ride, and then, senior citizen and like that, how they are going to manage to go to the Cortland, the Walter Panas from that area, and something like that. So that may be somehow we can help from our community nearby where we are, We don't have to just, at least to mention it way in advance, that, the locations are changing. Those who are already there, we don't need to worry.
We only got this information today, but we will be putting it out there in the paper, on our websites, on the TV, on the government channels. So that, and we're available to answer any questions.
And the Board of Elections sends out a notice, correct, Diana?
Yeah.
I'm not going to speak for them because I don't know whether they will. Hopefully they will, but cards have been sent to people.
Yeah, traditionally they do. Okay. Excellent. Our Highway Superintendent, Dave Paganelli.
Okay. Hello, Yorktown. I see you've got Con Ed on, so I don't want to steal too much of their thunder. But a couple of weeks ago, they did reach out to us. I spent about a day and a half, 2 days, riding around, taking pictures of trees that were considered danger trees. Earlier this afternoon, I received a list from them of what they've accomplished since that time, and they have taken down 22 trees in the last 6 days, which is great. We're very happy about that. So if anyone lives in the Con Ed service area and you have a dead or diseased tree that is in danger of falling on their power lines, they're being very aggressive with respect to addressing these issues. So please feel free to either contact the supervisor's office, or you certainly can call Highway 962-5781. Make us aware of it. I'll come out. It's not get out of jail free card. I mean, these trees have to be dead or diseased. If you want a tree, please don't waste anyone's time. So that's that. We did start paving. To the super's earlier point, we did lose 20% of our state aid, unfortunately, but we're making do, and we're still continuing as planned. We're milling 3 roads to do a comparative analysis of, can we mill the road, which I believe is the correct way to pave, or do we have to continue to overlay roads? So the hope is that the money we save on risers for the catch basins, the manholes, an 1.5 inch mill and fill as opposed to a 2-inch overlay should result in a 25% savings in asphalt. And the hope is that if we get within 10%, more to do it correctly, then that motivates us to do it correctly, and we'll be able to, get done what we'd like to get done. And that's about it. So we are paving now. Please be aware that there are checks, and referred to as either checks or keys, in the roadways in anticipation. It's where an old road meets a new road, and the new road blends into it. So if you see a bump sign, it's not there for fun. It's there because you should slow down and go over that slowly. It's a literal cut in the road. So please, just be careful, exercise a little extra caution, and leave a little extra time. Okay, thank you very much.
Great job, Dave.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to go to presentations. We are, as our highway superintendent said, joined by Con Edison. We have several individuals. I want to thank Jane Solnick for pulling this together. Jane, you there?
I am here, but can you please connect the 914-925 phone number because the rest of our staff are on that number?
No problem. Our town clerk can handle that.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
And so Jane and I had a great conversation about a week ago, just providing an update to the town as to the response to the storm and some of the post-mortem that's been done on their actions. And I thought it was appropriate to bring to the town. Again, Yorktown is indeed unique because we have both Con Ed and NYSEG. So speaking with our highway superintendent, we thought it would be best to do this as a presentation to the town board and so that they can brief the town board and the public simultaneously. Do we have that number all set?
Yes, you're coming through loud and clear for us at this point.
Okay, great. So Jane, and you wanted to share your screen?
Yes, so in actuality, you had met, I think I'm hearing myself. Darren, did you guys turn off your mics?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So Darren is here with us, and I'm going to let us kick it off for him.
Great.
Matt, good evening. It's Darren Scaramble, General Manager here at Bronx Westchester Electric Operations.
Hey, Darren, how are you? You're here with the entire town board, Councilman Tom Diana, Councilman Ed Lackerman, Councilwoman Alice Roker, and on the phone is Councilman Vishnu Patel. Also with our highway superintendent, Dave Paganelli, town clerk Diana Quast, and town attorney Adam Rodriguez.
All right, so good evening all. Can you see my screen, Matt, before I begin?
I do not. Diana, can you enable him, please?
It's set to do that.
It's set to do that. Okay. Yep.
It is enabled?
Yep, you should be good to go.
All right, tell me if you see it. I apologize. We're used to using Zoom. We're not used to using Zoom, but I'm thinking I'm doing it right. Hopefully it is.
Yep, got it.
Okay, do you see Yorktown's town summary on the screen?
We do.
Okay, all right, so good evening all. So I'm going to start off this evening's presentation. I'm going to walk you through some storm stats from the recent storm that we went through in August. And then I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Ayalton Ramos, who's going to walk through our tree trimming program with you. And then finally, another one of my colleagues, Roger Canaville from our engineering department, is going to walk through some of the programs we're doing, both we have done and both we're doing moving forward to improve our system. So I'll start off with some of the storm stats, and feel free to ask any questions as I go through or at the end, whatever your preference is. So during Storm Isaias, we had a total of 5,583 customers impacted in your municipality. All right, that's 66% of the total customers that we serve in that municipality. All right, we had an estimated time of restoration target for 95% of those customers to be 8/10, which is Monday night, 8/10 at 2300 hours. That was the Muni estimated time of restoration that we communicated. We met that restoration at 3:30 that day, 3:30 p.m. And the last customer restored in your municipality that's fed through Con Edison was on 8/12 at 8:22 p.m. Okay. So just to walk through some of the stats, we had 39 road closures. I'll go through some of the details farther down on the slide once I get there, but we had 39 road closures, 29 wires down. I will say one thing, in my conversation with Matt before, I know there might have been some discussion on that you guys thought we had more than 39 road closures. What sometimes does happen is sometimes they're reported as wire down, so that could be the confusion. We can obviously look into anything you'd like us to look into. But we had 29 wires down, 3 critical customers. As far as damage, you'll see it was extensive damage that we had onto our system. 43 poles, 93 aerial spans of primary, 233 spans of open wire, 174 secondary spans of cable, 163 services. We had 4 switches and 5 transformers that needed to be replaced. Now I'll walk you through some of our estimated time of restorations. We call it ETRs, right? So 1,500 customers received 1 ETR. 98 customers received 2 different ETRs. 262 customers received 3, and you'll see that 242 received 4 or plus. We clearly see that we have some room to improve here. We look at the 3 and 4 plus as areas we're looking to improve. We are working to make that improvement, and hopefully moving forward, you'll see an improvement during the next event. All right, looking into road closures in more detail, you'll see a little breakdown in the bottom. The first column, I won't go through every one, shows when the road closure was reported to us. You'll see the majority being the first day, which makes sense, right? The day of the storm, right? That 28 number there you see. The column next to it shows when we closed the road, when we closed the ticket. So in essence, opened up the road. All right. You'll see the majority were 8-7, 8-8, and 8-9. Again, in here, we've put together several initiatives. We did talk a little with Matt before to try to improve closure process. We are in the process of training more skilled community liaisons that can be used if we want to partner with your DPW, that we could send out as a separate, in addition to what we send out with our tree trimming crew and our overhead crew to try to speed up the process and open more roads sooner. That's something we can partner with you if you're looking to do so. Restorations by date. You'll see on the far right column, you'll see the 2 largest days of restoration were 8-6 and 8-7. Both of those days we got 2,000 back, and as I said, the last for the storm, this shows a couple others that came in after the storm, but the last for the storm, 8-12. All right, moving forward, I'm going to turn it over to Alex, and we're going to talk a little more about our tree trimming program.
Can we go back 1 second? Is that okay?
Of course, of course. Go ahead, Matt.
I see my highway superintendent came off mute. Dave, any comments? Dave?
Hello?
Yep.
Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
All right. I could tell you this. You talk about your fuzzy math. There's no way you opened up 28 roads the day of the storm, period. I don't care who reported what, who reported this. We had crews on the ground for that first 24 hours, and there's no way Con Ed had that kind of presence in town. And then take a look at your road closure numbers. All right. The first day you said you closed out the 28 roads that were closed, and you ended up with 0. The next day you said you had 2 reported, and you ended up clearing up 2. The third day you had 2 reported, you cleared up 5. How did that happen?
No, let me explain to you, sir. I'm sorry. Maybe I didn't explain it properly. The first column is date the ticket was opened. So you called in on the first day, 28. We actually opened up nothing on the first day. So the second column would be 0. 0 opened on the first day.
I just wanted to make sure that was clear because I think the way you presented it appeared that you had opened up all those roads by that day.
I read it the same way.
I apologize, sir. That's my fault, and that's not how it is. So the first column, let's make sure everyone understands. The first column to the left is when the ticket was actually given to us, when our system recognized the ticket. The middle column is when we actually closed out the ticket or opened up the road. All right, we realize here we're looking.
You just said the same thing again when you closed out the ticket and opened the road. You didn't open the road.
Is the middle column, not the far left column.
Closures by day closed.
Right. So you're saying, I get what he's saying. So you're saying that you had 28 reported on the 4th, but none were open on the 4th.
Correct. What I'm confusing there is the ticket closed means the street is open. I apologize for the verbiage. Let me make sure. So the left,
if you do the math,
when it's reported,
32 roads that were closed or reported closed over a 3-day period, and you only were able to open 7 in the same amount of time, right?
That is correct, Matt. Okay. That is correct. I'm sorry for the confusion.
That seems not. That's okay.
Okay. And a couple items that I did discuss with Matt, which I can bring up here. So we are looking. We have gotten some feedback. We're doing these community calls in multiple groups. So getting some feedback to try to speed up this process and work with you. I did want to go over some data. So looking at all the road closures in Westchester County for the storm, we had 613. We did analyze all those tickets, at least the tickets that we have enough information to determine who did the work. And approximately 40% of the tickets that we actually opened and responded to, right, didn't need an overhead crew, which was basically cable or TV down with trees. So what we're saying is that we might be an opportunity that in addition to using the one tree cut and clear crew that we usually give you to work with a tree trimming crew to open, we could also give a knowledgeable employee that can work with your DPW that could tell you that if there's no electric wires down, that it would be safe to cut the trees. So we could have two parallel efforts if you're willing to do so. That is an opportunity. All right. So if you want to partner with that, we can clearly talk more about that offline. That is an opportunity that we feel that we're going at both angles that we could possibly improve in this area moving forward.
Agreed.
Okay.
Great.
Thank you. Okay. I'm gonna move it down to Ayalton, which we're going to talk a little more about the tree trimming efforts that we've been doing. Ayalton?
Thank you, Darren. Good evening, Mr. Slater, and good evening to all of the board members. My name is Ayalton Ramos, and I am the section manager of contract management here at Con Edison, and I oversight our vegetation management program across the service territory. So first, I want to give you a little bit of background of our vegetation management program, and then I will go over the 4 pillars of our program and where Yorktown, the town of Yorktown stands year to date, and also some historical trends. So the vegetation program across the service territory is an essential part of our reliability, as we've seen. The purpose of the program is to provide tree clearance from overhead electrical wires. The company allocates over $14 million annually for tree trimming across the service territory. Year to date, we've spent $650,000 in our vegetation program in the town of Yorktown. We hire qualified contractors to perform trimming functions, professional foresters who are specified and trained in preserving the tree health, and they follow the International Society of Arboriculture pruning guidelines. In Westchester County, tree trimming is performed by Asplin Tree Expert Company. You may have seen their work vehicles throughout town. Following a storm, we also do extend the resources outside of Asplin trees. We also retain mutual aid assistance, as we did during Tropical Storm Isaias, to help with our restoration efforts and clearing of roads as discussed earlier. In terms of the trees during storms and then processing that, we remove the trees, the limbs that fall on our power lines, the tree debris that's left on location. We work with the DPW, and if it's on private property, with the homeowner on the removal of that once we provide the clearance off our power lines. So now I would like to go over the 4 pillars of our vegetation program. The fundamental is our preventive maintenance, which is our tree trimming program. Every 3 years, we trim to create minimum distance between the electrical distribution wires and surrounding trees. In Westchester County, our specification is 15 feet above, 10 feet to either side, and 10 feet below of our wires or equipment. On a 3-year cycle, we've trimmed approximately 116 miles in the town of Yorktown. Year to date, for this year, we are still on schedule. We have an additional 33 miles to trim in the town of Yorktown. While maintaining our tree trimming schedule, we also have what's called the right-of-way removals. During the trimming cycle of the feeders, we've identified any trees that are deemed to be dead, diseased, dying, located within our right-of-way based on those dimensions given. We obtained written permission from the town for these removals. The last 3 years, we have removed 96 trees that could have been impacted to our system that were deemed to be either dead, diseased, or dying. In addition, another avenue of work we have tree toppings. Toppings are often used to reduce the size of the trees. Often a property owner or the town may find that the tree has outgrown into the electrical wires, and the company needs to provide a clearance of 2 feet below our secondary low voltage lines so the property owner can remove the tree. The last 3 years, 7 of these work has come in from the town of Yorktown. Another volume of work in managing is customer inquiries. The vegetation management receives customer inquiries via a myriad of sources. but not limited to direct customer contacts through our control centers, through town agencies and the municipality requests. The bulk of these works tend to be focusing on tree-on-wire tickets that we receive. The last 3 years, we received 470 inquiries that have been investigated by our management team. Nearly 50% of these tickets come in tend to be no company involvement, no company wires interference. A few of them tend to be also communication wires, so telephone or cable TV, and we would let the individuals know who they need to reach out to the proper contact of their provider on those. In addition, also, we do find some of the programs we do have tree on wires. We go ahead and mitigate the issue, or we have to schedule a tree trimming in the area. We make those plans accordingly as well. Another program that we have, a very advertised program, some of the recommendations that came after the 2018 Riley and Quinn storm event is our hazardous tree removal program. The basis of this program, it focuses on trees now that's off right away. So this could be a tree that's in the backyard, but with its length, that if this tree was to fall, it could impact our facility, take down our wires, our poles, thus return into customer service interruption. This could also be a tree across the street that if it was to fall and it will cause an impact. Our arborists that we have follows the guidelines again to identify and survey these trees where they've identified to be dead or dying. And then we would proceed to survey them, and then we would obtain the permission from the town or the customer, and we would remove our trees. And this has helped us greatly in sustaining our reliability in the area. Since the program started in the fall of 2018, throughout Westchester County, we have identified and removed nearly 2,000 trees as hazardous trees that could impact our facilities, of which 441 of these trees have been in the town of Yorktown. It is about the greatest of all the municipalities that we focus on the hazardous tree since the infancy in 2018. And currently we have 60 additional trees that have been surveyed. We're obtaining permissions from either the town or the customers on us to remove these by year end. So these are the 4 bases of our program. Any questions on our tree trimming program?
Can I ask the questions, guys?
Yeah, Councilman.
Okay. Let me tell you, I'm talking in general, not either Con Ed or New York State Gas, an electric company. What they have done is some of the poles are really old, and your transformers are cheap. Okay, they don't make the quality of the material you use it. The product. Really, the insulator and whatever replacement material is really not a third-grade material. I'm telling you that, okay? So you try to look for cheap materials and then end up spending extra time and extra, trouble for the customer. Until now, there wasn't not much maintenance on the tree and all these things, so that created a big problem. And I'm happy to tell you that at least we have started their program the last 2 years, so it's really good because homeowner also should take a responsibility to maintain their trees because if it falls, the town has a big burden too. We don't have lots of money and lots of that many people to maintain, so we should also work with the town residents and like that. So if we work together diligently and continuously maintain the power line and trees, I think then it will improve the service and the customer will be happier and healthier.
Thank you. Thank you for the question, sir. And just to comment back on the very valid points you've mentioned there. So first, in terms of communication with the customer, we want to have an open dialogue. One of the many venues which we could share with the town we have a DL email address that we use where we did get direct comments either with pictures from the customers on any trees within their property that could impact the facilities. when I said some of these customer inquiries that we investigate, that is one path that we have. Our Con Ed website also has a pathway for us to report any tree condition, and we urge customers to take that avenue because that all funnels back to the group where we could put eyes on it and respond. In terms of a pole, we do have a pole inspection program. That's another area that my department looks over as well, where we do provide, a periodic inspection of poles and look at treatment, and we follow up on that. So that is a defined program that, that's gone for years. In terms of the vegetation program, you are correct. The Hazardous Tree Program is a fairly new program, which started in 2018, well, obviously after the events of the Riley and Quinn. And I think we're in a better state with the vegetation, in particular in Yorktown, when we identify removing nearly 500 trees there. The tree trimming program, which is our preventive maintenance, that is a robust program as part of the utility with the overhead distribution system. That has always been within a 3-year cycle. All of the circuits that we have to maintain that spec compliance to provide those clearance on. So, continue to focus and continue to identify how we could identify these hazardous trees, and also in the program that we have in terms of tree trimming, it's a robust program on a 3-year cycle.
I'd like to take an opportunity to respond to Councilman Patel. Last year, and you ought to be taking credit for this, you replaced a tremendous amount of storm-hardened poles. You put in storm-hardened poles and took out a tremendous amount of poles. I just don't understand why you're not quoting those figures. I know you did well over 100 poles.
Yep. It actually moves into our next topic.
The next topic.
Pretty well.
So okay. I wanted to set up that.
Thank you. We appreciate the comment.
So if there's no other question on the vegetation side of the house, we'll pass it to our next colleague, Roger Scanlon. We'll talk about some of our engineering reinforcement projects.
Thank you, Ailton, and good evening, Mr. Slater and all the other board members. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
All right, very good. My name is Roger Scanoville. I'm the department manager for the Bronx and Westchester Regional Engineering Team. And today I'll talk about some of the work we're doing and continue to do, some of what we've done and we continue to do under the storm hardening umbrella. So we spoke of some of the poles that we changed over, and I'll speak about some of the circuits that were associated with a lot of the poles that we actually changed out. So right after Superstorm Sandy back in 2012, we focused on what we call the storm hardening portfolio. And now, back then, storm hardening included not just reinforcing the overhead system, but also looking at vulnerable underground facilities. So part of what we did back then, this 2013 to 2017, roughly, we have a lot of large loops, circuits on the system, a large number of customers. And one of the approaches that we took was to segment the circuits into basically smaller customer chunks of customers, around 500 customers per segment. And what this really does is allow us to limit the number of customers that are impacted by any potential event. So a tree comes down, instead of taking out the entire feeder or majority of the customers on the feeder, we're now isolating the outage count to about 500, thereabouts, as opposed to thousands. That was a big part of our approach, utilizing smart switches, which basically automatically perform some of these isolation moves instead of manually having to switch around customers. The T-Town loop was one of the loops that we focused on. So splitting of loops is one of the big area of focus as well. So we have loops, again, with thousands of customers. And the T-Town loop was one of the ones targeted. That serves about only 50 customers in Yorktown. But that was a part of a larger effort to reconfigure some of our loops. Again, by making smaller loops, we're essentially limiting the number of customers that are impacted by any one event. When trees and branches come down and falls on overhead services, they have a tendency to actually rip the services out, either from the poles or even worse, from the customer's building itself, right? And that can cause damage to the customer's siding and certainly the facade. So the breakaway services, as you see here, between 2013, so right after Superstorm Sandy, as part of storm hardening, we installed 15 of those breakaway services back then more as a pilot to essentially test this device and see how it would work. So when the tree comes down on the branch, on the service, instead of pulling out the service from the house or from the pole, this device actually disconnects. So it essentially absorbs the weight and the force of that branch coming down and will disconnect, right? And our crews have the kits and the replacement parts to essentially put the service back together, thereby eliminating any of the damages that we so commonly see in the traditional type of service, either from being ripped from the pole or from the customer's premise itself. 58 fuses were installed in spurs. And again, these also limit the number of customers that are impacted. So if you figure you have your main circuit round going down Main Street and tap off that, you have sometimes hundreds of customers tapped up that main feed. Well, if a branch came down on that spur, essentially it would take out not just the customers on that spur, but the customers on the main run. So what this fuse does is it operates, it senses that fault downstream and isolates only the customers that are down on that spur, saving the customers on the feeder proper on the main run. So 58 of those were installed, again, between 2013 and 2017, right after Superstorm Sandy. And that accounted for just around $600,000 worth of work that we did, focused in the town of Yorktown. Fast forward to 2018, part of right after, Riley Quinn, the PSC certainly, intervened and we committed to spending and focusing on the Westchester area in general, so Yorktown included, as part of that. And we call this program Storm Hardening 2.0 or overhead reliability. You might hear the terms used interchangeably, but essentially really focusing on the overhead system in the Westchester area. So a number of projects we undertook from 2018 till, and it's still ongoing now. One was the Aqueduct Loop Split. That was one of our largest loops or circuits that we have up in the general area. Out of about 1,250 customers in the town of Yorktown actually served by this circuit. So we split that loop. We established the Baldwin Loop. Again, by making the circuit smaller, we're reducing the number of customers impacted by any one event. We continued accelerating our installation of breakaway services, as I described earlier. So aerial cable is one of the strategies we utilized, or we have utilized in the past, and we continue to do so. The Oconite, the PILC, this paper insulated lead covered cable that were installed years ago, it has a failure mode that is beyond ideal, right? It's not the preferred type of cable that we use anymore. So we're in the process of changing a lot of what's out there to a more EPR type cable. Again, aerial cable is actually cable that's traditionally put on the ground, but it's been shown to be able to withstand tree contact much better than the open wire cable. Now we're limited in where we can actually install this type of cable because essentially a bundled cable that we usually run for multiple spans. So usually it's not where you have transformers to serve customers. You need the open wires configuration, that horizontal type of configuration that you see on the pole tops. That's sort of the traditional approach that we use. So aerial cable is one of those that's been proven to be successful at withstanding a lot more force than the open wire. So areas, we call it super spans, where we have multiple sections where there are no customers fed on that segment. We install, and there's heavy tree cover, we install aerial cable. So we replaced about 3,000 feet of that older type cable, PILC Oconite cable, with newer type aerial cable. We further installed more section lines and smart switches, as I described earlier, on the Shrub Oak Loop. Again, those are all circuits that serve the Yorktown area. The installation of the aerial cable on the pole top, we consider that part of our undergrounding approach. And we replaced about 2.5 miles of those. We replaced open wire with aerial cable. Again, they're more durable. They actually better withstand the forces of wind and tree contact than the open wire cable. So between 2018 and 2020, we spent $10.3 million on circuits that are serving the Yorktown area. So it's a significant acceleration in spend, for that 2-year period, and we continue to do so. One of the areas, again, the Strawbrook Loop, it serves about 1,700 customers in the Yorktown area. We're going to split that loop into a smaller circuit, in 2 smaller circuits. Similar strategy, a lot of overhead, circuits in the general area. So we're taking a multi-pronged approach to how we can limit the impact of trees and the storms on customer services. Next slide, please. So just to give you a brief summary, and Darren went over some of the stats associated with Storm Isaias. One of the things we also look at is, well, how did we perform with all the work that we're doing? Are we getting the benefit? Are the customers seeing the benefit of that? And one mechanism we use, a metric we use, is outages avoided. So we essentially look at all the outages, not just for Yorktown, but in general, look at all the outages. And we identified the circuits where we actually installed either, fuses or smart switches as part of storm hardening. And we basically do a calculation. Had we not installed the devices, how many customers would have been impacted? So from Storm Isaias, we see about just over 3,200 outages were avoided based on the work that we did for as part of storm hardening. And that's about 37% of outages that were avoided due to the efforts that we're doing. So we continue, allocating funds in the Westchester area. We have a 4-year program under the overhead reliability umbrella that we're doing this work as part of. And, so we continue targeting vulnerable areas, larger loops to split, installing smart switches, breakaway services, undergrounding, etc. So any questions for the engineering side of the house?
Okay, let me ask you something, guys. Councilman Patel, do you have, the parallel circuit, the wire installed in some places, or it's just like a circle, So one side, breaks, so you just route it again. And there's the other, it's, what I really worried, when I was talking to the CEO, like 10 years ago, they were worried more about the shareholder value and then not giving enough money for the components and everything else. So we had a big fight, for a few years, And I think something has improved, but the components are pretty cheap. I can tell you that, Some of the components you use are so bad, chips. And I don't know whether they are giving enough money to, upgrade or quality-wise, I have some doubts, how the material, the money you are getting to improve the infrastructure, all the hardware and things like that, What is the cycle of transformer now? 10 years, something, 15? It used to be like 40, 50 years, So, a little thunderstorm comes and blew up right away, Do you have any comment on that?
Sure, and thank you for your question, Mr. Patel. So I'll tell you that in the Westchester area, we've committed to spending $100 million over a 4-year period, starting in 2019 through 2022. That's a 4-year period. So we're in year 2 of this effort. That this hasn't been done focused on Westchester in the past. Typically, it's a global approach. So we're really focused on identifying the vulnerable parts of the system. Not sure of the particular equipment you spoke to that might be cheap, but I'll tell you that we're, as part of our storm hardening effort, we're putting in stronger poles. I know someone mentioned that earlier. We're installing more durable overhead conductors that can better withstand the wind and trees and so on. Transformers themselves, it all depends on the nature of the damage, right? So if a branch falls directly on the transformer and it's large enough, it will cause damage to the equipment. The transformers have a very long cycle, easily 40 or 50 years.
They have replaced on my street 3 times, 4 times.
Okay. Okay.
Very small.
Okay. Yeah. No, I can certainly attest to the fact that we are committed to spending quite a bit of money up in the Westchester area to reinforce the system and make it stronger. So I'm glad you mentioned that you've seen some changes recently, and hopefully that's part of all the work that we're doing. But we definitely are committed to spending a lot of funds up in the area to improve the reliability for the next few years. So more to come on a lot of our efforts.
And let me ask you, I want to ask you something about, just in general. Some people ask me why you don't have underground. Underground, it costs them a lot of money. And if something goes wrong, it is more difficult and takes a longer time to find out where the trouble is, Underground is not easier. Am I right?
That is correct. And, so as you can imagine, as storms occur, a lot of interest in let's call it the traditional undergrounding, what the average person understands undergrounding to be. You put the facilities underground. Yes, it'll be less susceptible to wind and storms, like in Manhattan, right? It's all underground there. But troubleshooting issues when they do occur can take a very long time.
Yes.
Undergrounding is very expensive, obviously, and we strategically identified areas for undergrounding where the cost-benefit analysis shows that it makes sense to spend the money there, but it's very expensive. Easily $8 million a mile to underground, and this is just the electric, right? You got Verizon, you got cable, you got all these other third-party wireless companies that also has to go underground. So it's part of a larger conversation to put the facilities underground, and very, very expensive.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Councilman Diana here. Could you talk to us a little bit about mobilizing crews and so on? Also the usage of other crews from either other states or municipalities, and how that works, and the time it takes to get them to location. Mutual aid, I guess I would be speaking of.
Yeah, I'll take that. This is Darren Scarabello. Thank you for your question. So just to give you some data on the mutual aid that we had on the premise by day. So on the second day of the storm, or day after 8/5, we had 270 FTEs, right? We call FTEs, which is basically the equivalent employee that works in the overhead. I'll just give you the ramp up so you can get an idea. 270 day after, up to 406 the next day, 789, and then you start to get over 1,000 FTEs, and we maxed out at almost around 2,000 FTEs. So that process, there's 2 different processes we have. We do have some contracts with several of our contractors, or what's called a right of first refusal, that they supply us with a certain amount of FTEs that we can call upon at any time. And then we also are part of a NIMIG call, which is multiple utilities, where we'll put in a request for other utilities that are nearby that might not have been impacted if we need additional FTEs. We are looking at several items to try to bolster this. One is we're looking to increase the number of contracts we have that guarantee us the first right of refusal to increase that number of FTEs. And we're also additional vehicles. We're actually in the process right now of purchasing vehicles that will give us the ability to exist upon flying in mutual aid FTEs, so we're not competing with the same resources that typically happen on a NIMEG call, right? You have multiple utilities nearby that are going through the same weather pattern that are all, in essence, competing for the same FTEs, right? That is a process. So with these extra trucks, we'll be able to fly in FTEs from, let's just say, the West Coast that are not experiencing the same weather pattern. So we do feel once that's secured, and it's in the process of being done now, we'll be able to expand upon the number of FTEs we can get here quicker. And that's the ultimate goal.
Does it seem, correct me if I'm wrong, Dave, it was the first night after the winds and everything had stopped, we had, I believe, just one Con Ed crew on the ground that we knew of.
Correct. That's
correct.
And that was disturbing, especially when we had them actually housing in one of our state parks in the town of Yorktown, and garaging or parking, whatever you want to call it. Was their staging area that, and we weren't getting the usage. Now you spoke of different amounts of FTs. How many were actually dedicated or were used in the town of Yorktown? I guess that's our main concern.
Yeah, so I can get you, I don't have the breakdown by muni by day, but I'd be happy to follow up with Matt and get that information to you.
Okay.
We can break it down by muni. I have the breakdown for the Westchester County, but I'll get that to Matt and we'll send that out to you.
Let us know though in regards to Councilman Diana's point regarding FDR Park, because we didn't stop hearing about it. We had a staging area at FDR Park. How many of those crews were utilized in Yorktown? Do we know? And why not? If they weren't utilized in Yorktown, why not?
Okay, so that's a staging area we do. So we have a process, right? What we do is we call it weighted customer count, where our planning process will look at the maximum number of customers on a particular job, and those are the jobs that will go out first. We don't separate that by muni. So that's done at the Westchester County level. So wherever the greatest impact is, those will be the first on restoration crews. I think you are aware, but just to make sure everyone on the call knows, the first 48 hours is predominantly cut and clear, which we're trying to focus on cut and clear operations, which is safety and road closures. But we do have some restoration crews. We're looking to improve that on some of the efforts that I talked about before. But it is done at the county level and by weighted customer count, not at the muni level.
I know Dave wanted to ask a question. Dave, do you want to?
Yes, please. Let me tell you my observation. Having been the boots on the ground, having seen the discussions, having on 3 consecutive evenings being told, keep my crews on to the tune of $3,500 an hour because Con Ed is coming to town. We're getting 2 crews. We're getting 3 crews. Had I taken that advice, I said, when I see them, we will then keep our crews on. I would have paid 30 men and women to sleep for 3 nights in a row. So I think there's a major breakdown in communication between, and I see it even when you show up on a job, the tree crew shows up, they've got to call the 1-800 number. They wait a half an hour to 40 minutes to get through. They get through. They're told, yes, you can shut down the line. And if I'm incorrect, correct me, but I was there witnessing it. They check the lines. They got to call the 1-800 number again with every other crew that's in Westchester County, all right, and get permission to start work on the tree. And then this whole process has to be done in reverse when the tree is cleared. This resulted in a 9 hours to clear a tree on Route 118. That's absolutely absurd. It really is. I was flabbergasted. But I understand you want to keep people safe. Lines could be backfed, but I think that's somewhere where really the communication between the people out in the field and your 1-800 number that they're spending, I saw at one point 45 minutes to get through. They just kept calling and calling. It was totally non-functional. I mean, if I hadn't witnessed it, I never would have believed it, honestly. And it's only meant as constructive criticism. I'm not bashing anyone. You're all doing your jobs as well as you're capable of. But I'm here to point out what's missing, and that's what's missing. When I'm told, keep my crews on because you're getting 2 crews, you're getting 3 crews, and they never materialize, that would have been horrendous had I wasted that money, and I would have been really upset. And then on top of it, the amount of time in communication to do a simple job, I just think that's where you can use some improvement. That's all.
And we thank you for those comments. And that is interaction. I know you mentioned the 1-800 number. That is our control center, which oversees the authority for those lines. And we are looking to see if we can increase the number of qualified operators in that control center during typical events. That will improve the ease in which field crews can get into the control center and talk to them. So that is on our agenda.
Would you say that the COVID-19 played part in that you didn't have as many, qualified people answering those phones is why they had to wait so long?
So we did have some people within the control center that were out on, certainly you're aware of Matilda's Law. But yes. That being said, we still feel there is an opportunity when you get to this level of a storm where we need to have the ability to expand to more operators. So we're looking at a couple different things. One item is trying to put more crews on off-hour shifts, so to eliminate some of the bottleneck on the day watch. And then another item we're looking to do is just train more operators that are capable of doing that type of work. As you know, it's very safety sensitive when you have that many FTEs working on an overhead system that can be backfed in many cases. But nonetheless, we hear your concerns and we are looking to address it.
Can I ask one simple question? You know, town of Yorktown, there are whatever the certain area, you know, maybe 6, 8, 10. Do you have a remote transmitter that you can check it out whether the power is going through or the circuit is broken, something like that? And from that, you can judge how many places you have no power. The customer, instead of a customer calling, you know, it is very difficult. You know, you call customer and, you know, and then now have this triple line, you know, the telephone and then internet and all three together. How can you talk to somebody if you have a, you know, a senior citizen and if you have a landline? There is no way. Then you need another phone, the wireless phone. The wireless phone works sometimes because there is no power to charge the battery. All these things are, you know, so if you only have some kind of, some transformer or some switch area that, hey, there is no power is there, then, you know, you cannot see, you know, you can figure out yourself how much, you know, manpower you needed to do a certain area, and you can figure out from there instead of we calling you, you know.
That's, so thank you for your comments. So I think everyone's familiar. I'm just not sure. We have, for the most part, finished our AMI deployment in Westchester.
I know that smart meters.
Right. So we do have smart meters at approximately 99%. It's very high rate. There's a couple left, but at a very high level. So that does give us that level of information that we didn't have in the past. So we're definitely using that. And then you also referred to our SCADA system, where there are some switches, not all switches, on our overhead system, and we're making more and more of those switches that we do have the capability of remotely operating and then to be able to tell what's in service and also the switch and backfeed situation. And that's some of the stuff that Roger talked about before. That's increasing the reliability. We're looking to put more of them out there.
Because you can see real time, you know, 24/7, you know, your performance on delivery of the power right on a computer. You can see all the graphs, area, you know, and the location. So, you know, you don't get that many phone calls, and you plan it really. Send somebody else, and whoever you're in charge, they can analyze it. What areas need to be done first.
Agree, and this is Rogers. So as the process matures more, there'll be less of a reliance on the calls from the customer and to the customers verifying whether they have power. I totally agree. The technology is here and is deployed, and we're going through the process of fully building the sort of the brains behind it to help us with some of this analysis. But it's really hope to be in the near future. Thank you.
No, because last year or a year before, you know, there was a big meeting in Westchester County, you know, and everybody was really mad. But these are the kind of issue to be, you know, you're an engineer, and you know, tell the CEO, give some money to put something, because only thing they worry about is shareholder value, you know. And I know, you know, you can only do whatever they give you the money, but I want to deal with those guys, you know, those who make the counting the beans, you know. That's why I was 4 years ago, every meeting I went there and I asked the question, show me, you know. You are increasing your rate, the shareholder value, and then LLC company, you don't know where it is. So this is the kind of guy I am now, you know, that I want to answer it. We have made some improvement, and I am very happy that some of the things you try to install and, you know, figure out, because this way you need less people to figure out what's going on, right?
We agree. We formally want to use technology. We're looking to continue to expand that technology and make improvements on the system.
Thank you. Yeah.
What's the next steps and follow up from Con Ed, just so we can wrap this up? So I know it's getting late and we have more on the agenda here. So next steps from you would be what exactly?
So Matt, obviously I'll get back to you on a couple items. You did ask us for the breakdown by Muni for our crewing that we had each day. I'll get back to you on that. I did send you a couple follow-ups that Jane sent. I don't know if you had a chance to review.
Yep.
Certainly, if you have any
shared
questions.
with the board, and it shows the level of customer outages per year for specific areas. You know, we were very curious about areas on the north side of town, specifically New Road, Williams Drive, and Ravine Street, and then we still would like to have a follow-up conversation about Croton Heights. I know that the customers over there really want to have a conversation with Con Ed as well about their service that they've been receiving, and quite frankly, I mean, the other person that really can provide additional insight on the restoration is our highway superintendent. I think he was probably the last person restored in the town of Yorktown on Baldwin Road. But following up with us on that data would be immensely helpful.
I have one question.
And we're committed to do that. We have that information from talking to you before, Matt, and we are committed to follow up with that.
Councilman Roker, yes?
Yeah, I'd like to know what your protocol is once you receive notification that a storm will occur and will specifically in Westchester County.
So it depends on many factors, right? It depends on the level of storm. So we have several internal procedures where we predict with our weather forecast. We have a meteorologist on staff who looks at many weather forecasts, and we predict based on previous storms of similar capacity the number of jobs, and that job count will then take to how many crews we'll have on board. I'll give you an example. Tomorrow we're preparing for not a large storm, but some winds in the afternoon. So we have a prediction based on the job count for Westchester County, and we've actually moved certain crews from our day watch. We're typically on the overhead side, heavy on the day watch because we do most of that work during the day on blue sky day. We've moved some of them to the off-hour shifts to help with the anticipated extra job count that we anticipate tomorrow afternoon. So it depends on the level of storm. To summarize at a high level, we have a meteorologist who predicts the number of jobs, and we take that job count to match it to crewing, and that's when we decide on how we get to that crewing that we need, and whether we can do it with internal resources or we need to make a request for mutual aid.
Since Westchester is pretty big in terms of landmass, how do you decide what area you're going to begin in?
So we have multiple workout facilities that we have both in the southern side of Westchester and to the northern side of Westchester. We also have troubleshooters that we have out of smaller remote locations, both in Upper Westchester and Buchanan, for example, and several other locations. We have an Eastview location, Rye is another location, Worth Street we have. There's a total of 7 locations that we have. So we stage them out to try to help. And then obviously we use some of those locations. If we increase with mutual aid, we bring them out of some of our major locations.
Doesn't it come down to the weighted value that you talked about earlier? So basically the number of customers. So if we're competing with places like Yonkers, Mount Vernon, New York City, this is what I think Councilman Roker's getting to. Even if you're staging in the town of Yorktown, you're sending those crews down out of Yorktown to go fix those areas first. That's what it sounded like to me. Am I wrong in that assessment?
So our emergency response procedures, right, which are vetted through the Public Service Commission, right, we respond to work on a weighted customer count. So if the weighted customer count is higher in Yorktown, we would go to Yorktown. If the weighted customer count would be higher, the priority job would be in Rye, for example, or it could be in New Rochelle. So we list that by weighted customer count. There is, when I say weighted, we do look at critical customers, and it's weighted accordingly based on our procedures. And then we would dispatch that based on the weighted customer count. But we do look at Westchester as a whole. So we don't look at just, hey, here's Yorktown, or here's Rye, or here's New Rochelle. We group it all together, and we dispatch based on weighted customer count for a storm.
How long did it take you to calculate the weighted customer count?
It's an automated calculation. It's done by the systems that we have, our internal work management system.
Is that dependent on tickets that are reported, or is that dependent upon weather predictions? What is it dependent on?
That would be tickets that are reported, and there'll be a calculation depending if there's how many customers, and then also the criticality of certain customers will increase the weight. Like for example, I'll give you an example of a hospital. hospital at the highest weight, right?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, can I say something else? This is my last question to you today. Most of the people now, they want to, have a generator, and many people, they have it, except me, okay? And then a lot of people will be solar and all that, so maybe they will give you the break. Am I right?
I'm sorry, we missed,
Can you
we
repeat
didn't
that?
hear your question.
Did you say
lots of people now, they have a generator at home in Yorktown, and more people wants to have it. So you will have a less complaint because something goes off, they have a power, except some. And then pretty soon, maybe a lot of people will have some kind of solar thing to give you a little break. And then tell the weatherman, don't bring too many souls. We cannot afford it, okay? Yeah, like that.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other questions?
Yeah, okay.
Councilman Roker, do you have a question?
I have one last question.
Please, go ahead.
And this is probably to Jane. Jane, is it possible to notify municipalities with an informal, probably timeline as to when you expect your people to reach Yorktown? Because I don't think we are going to be in that weighted count because we don't have a hospital or any kind of facility like that. So it's better than just going, I don't know when they're coming.
Right. Assessing the ETR. Yeah.
Right.
I think to Alice's point, or Councilman Roker's point, excuse me, folks in Croton Heights would rather just be told out front that, you're out for 3 days, 4 days. Is there a way of doing that? Is that what you're asking?
Mm-hmm.
So we are, I think that. So we are looking at ways to try to improve our estimated time of restoration and to get information sooner. We do recognize that there was some delay in this past storm on getting out that estimated restoration time. So we are looking for ways to improve that, and hopefully the next event, when it does come, you'll see improvement in that area.
All right. Any last questions from the board? Councilman Lackerman or Councilman Diana?
I'm good with all the questions asked already. Thanks.
Yeah, I think there's only one other crucial spot but it's NYSEG, is our sewer treatment plant. That was 3 days out running on generator. We got to have a way to either go in from another direction or something there, but disregard. I misspoke here. That's NYSEG.
Right. Yeah. Okay, well, Jane and the team, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We appreciate the update and the information.
Thank you.
Dialogue. We appreciate that.
Thank you all.
Thank you for your time.
With that information requested, okay?
Thank you all.
All right.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Have a good night.
Have a good night. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, we're going to move on to our next presentation, which is Alliance for Safe Kids. When the boxes shift, I feel like I'm watching.
Right.
It's like a game show. I'm trying to figure out who I'm looking at here. And we're joined, of course, by our good friend, Liz Talbert. Liz, good evening. How are you?
Hi, I'm great. Good evening, everyone. Yes, it's just me tonight. So everyone else has the night off, I guess. But I so appreciate being here. I appreciated the invitation. And I'm here tonight to share some information about what's going on with Ask in October. And I heard you mention earlier that you're painting the town purple on Friday, I believe, for Relay for Life.
Yep.
So later on this month, Ask will be painting the town red. And we're doing that in recognition of Red Ribbon Week, which is a nationally recognized drug prevention awareness program. And all of the schools participate in Red Ribbon Week in a variety of ways by sharing information with their students and families that are age appropriate. And our role as a community coalition is to support that messaging. And so we do so by sharing information on social media posts and in our newsletters. But one of the, I think, the neatest things that we do is that we get the Ask volunteers out into the community and tie red ribbons on trees, on lampposts, all over town hall, up by the library, all throughout the community. And the reason for that is because we want those red ribbons to perhaps spark a conversation if a parent is in a car with their child, and they may say, what is that red ribbon for? And then perhaps their son or daughter may share some information that they learned at school about substance abuse prevention. So it's really just to support the awareness and the wonderful work that the schools and the substance abuse prevention counselors are doing within them. So we're really excited to paint the town red for the last week of October. And speaking of the last week of October, it also happens to be the last week of our month-long virtual Walk the Talk, which I also know you mentioned earlier, Matt, and I want to thank you for being at our first pop-up walk that was this past Saturday. So for those of you who may not know, hashtag Walk the Talk is a virtual fundraising campaign that Ask embarked on for the month of October, because due to COVID-19, we had to reschedule our initial walk plan for April, only to cancel that one in September, and ended up with this wonderful idea to have a month-long virtual event where we invite the community of all ages to come out and walk safely where they want and when they want. And registration is open all month. And we're really, really hoping that people will engage, will register, will use peer-to-peer fundraising, and will share information about the walk and perhaps encourage others to participate. So I did mention that you can walk wherever and whenever you want, but we do have pop-up walks planned. So as Matt, you mentioned earlier, we were at the track on a beautiful day on Saturday. And so this is where we would like to invite people who would like to walk with us, or even, if you're coming out to pick up a t-shirt, for the walk. So we're having a pop-up walk this upcoming Saturday at the mall. So the nice thing about that is that you can walk inside or outside there. So we'll be there from 10:30 to 12:30. The following Saturday, we'll be at Granite Knolls Park, also from 10:30 to 12:30. And then the following weekend, we will be at Railroad Park on Sunday from 10:30 to 12:30. And we chose Sunday to kick off Red Ribbon Week again. So that's the walk part. And then the talk part is really exciting, because we have 4 webinars planned for each Wednesday in October. And we have Ask Talks scheduled, which are short videos on a variety of different topics by local professionals that will be shared on social media. So our webinars start, I'm sorry, I have to look at this wonderful list. Our webinars are starting tomorrow. We have a theme for each week, and this week is emotional wellness awareness. And so we have a webinar scheduled for 7 o'clock. And the title of it is Achieving Wellness Through Playing and Self-Care, Home Tools and Tips for Adults and Children to Help Lift Us Up and Bring Us Together During This New Normal. So this particular webinar is going to be presented by Crystal and David Zykowitz, who actually presented a webinar last month, and we got such wonderful feedback from it. And they have decided to come back and volunteer their time to share tools and important resources with the community. The following week is Mental Health Awareness Week. We have a counselor, Melissa Smith, who actually used to be in the Lakeland School District. Now she's with North Salem, but she works with a dynamic group of youth who created a mental health awareness club called the Warriors. That I don't know if you had the opportunity to engage with them at previous Save a Life, but they're going to be presenting a webinar on youth mental health. Then we have Jessica Friedlander from Volunteer New York, who's going to be talking about the importance of volunteering at any age, and is going to be offering some wonderful tips and information. And then the 4th week, which is Red Ribbon Week, we are going to be addressing substance abuse prevention, and we have some wonderful, wonderful counselors from Mountainside Treatment Center who are going to be leading the webinar. So all of these webinars are free. So in addition to, registering for the walk and automatically being, registered for them, obviously I encourage anyone to register for the webinars, and all of that information is on our website. We also will have the Ask Talks that I mentioned, and Yeah, so you know what? I do want to mention a really neat thing that our volunteers worked on. They created a a Spotify playlist, which is really neat. That as you're walking, you can tune in and listen to this great music. And also, what we're really hoping that people will do is once you register and get one of those really fun Walk the Talk T-shirts, is that we're hoping that you may snap some pictures or even a short video of you, out walking in the community or wherever it is that you're walking, and tag us and perhaps share it with us, because we would love to share that as well. So I think that may be it, but if anyone has any questions at all, please email me at liz@allianceforsafekids.org, and all the links to register for the for hashtag Walk the Talk or any of the webinars may also be found on our website, which is allianceforsafekids.org.
Liz, thank you. We really appreciate the continued partnership with the town. We normally partner with the Save a Life program. Obviously, you've adapted so well, and it was great to be with you and the team over at Veterans Field as we kicked off the Walk the Talk month. And I was glad I got the JV Mall right for this weekend, and I'll make sure that I'm there with my awesome Alliance for Safe Kids shirt. But it really just shows again to the community, and I think Councilman Roker and I have talked about this publicly, just the incredible value your organization brings to the town of Yorktown every single day, every single week, every single month, and the services that you provide the town. And so just just another plug for our residents to continue to support Alliance for Safe Kids, just because, again, they bring so much to the table to support the community, to help our kids, help our families, and address really important issues. So thank you so much.
Liz, would you text me and let me know where we stand with the Nita Lowey's office?
I will. And I copied you on an email just to let you know that they are doing some grant research for us. So,
Perfect.
So that's wonderful. Yeah. So thank you, Alice, for making that connection.
Not a problem.
Okay, Liz, this is Vishnu. I want to ask you a question.
Yes.
Now we have a DARE and Alliance, for Safe Kids, and there will be a COVID, impact on the children and the family. Is there anything can be put together so this will be added into, it's not only the drug and alcohol, but psychologically, people are really suffering now. The children and the family and all that. Somebody is sick, somebody is not sick, taking care of the sick, and like that. So all can, be done at the same time. If you have something can be attached to this Alliance for Safe Kids program.
Absolutely, Vishnu. We are completely aware of the additional stress and anxiety that our families are feeling. And very early on, I would say by the mid-April, I believe, we had compiled a COVID-19 resource guide for the town that's on the town's website. And, we've shared it widely, And within that guide are many virtual resources for mental health support, substance abuse support, and just emotional wellness, mindfulness. So, we have definitely been trying over the most recent months to connect the community to as many virtual resources as possible. Just because, we can all Google things, but isn't it so much nicer just to go to one place and know that you're going to be able to have a menu of support, virtual support that you can reach out to. And also, just in thinking about what's happening this month with these 4 webinars that I mentioned, each one is definitely speaking directly to the situation that we're all in. Obviously the emotional wellness is going to, address like I mentioned, the additional stresses that everyone is under, the youth mental health, the same, and even thoughtful service. I'll tell you, when I had a conversation with Jessica at Volunteer New York, she, I let her know that our audience would be broad, but I said, I have a particular interest that I would like for you to hone in on. Because I said, I'm worried about the seniors in our community as we're going into the winter months and, thinking about people, being behind closed doors more and the loneliness that they may feel. I said, I really would like to share with the senior community that there are virtual volunteer opportunities that they can do from their home. And we talked about like one particular program that I just thought was beautiful, where they match up high school students who need to work on their communication skills on the phone with seniors. And I believe she said the call is supposed to last about 15 minutes, but sometimes she has seen them gone as long as an hour because a connection is made. So, and again, obviously for substance abuse, you know, it's not just about substance abuse prevention. It's also addressing people making, you know, poor choices now, again, because they're feeling overwhelmed and the anxiety that they're, you know, that we're all feeling. So just again, to your point, absolutely. I feel as if every resource we are tapping into currently definitely supports the situation, you know, that we're all in right now.
Yeah, because, you know, also the digital addiction is also really, you know, similar to alcohol. You cannot just spend all the time click, 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 you know, and then, you know, information is really, you know, not really just that whatever the information you give it to share with your family, friends, children, you don't know where it come from, you know, and it's just really, so digital addiction is really, you know, very bad too, you know, and people, it's just 24/7, you don't know where it come from, you know.
Absolutely.
Anyway, so thank you very much for what you do, you know.
Thank you. And I'm just thinking, so what better way to clear your head this month in October than to get out and register for Walk the Talk, get out in the community, walk safely, walk in small groups, you know, socially distant, but have fun and just, you know, stretch your legs and help to support the Alliance for Safe Kids.
Awesome. Liz, thank you so much. Really appreciate your efforts, and I'll see you at the JV Mall on Saturday.
Wonderful. Thank you. Have a wonderful night, everyone.
Thank you, Liz.
Thank you. Appreciate it. We're going to move on to our Poet Laureate, John McMullen. Good evening, John.
Good evening, Supervisor. I wrote this actually last week when I was totally confused and thought we had a meeting last week on debate night, but it makes sense for tonight based on an earlier conversation that I was listening in. As Tom Deanna knows, my father and my grandfather and my godfather wrote NYPD, and I, of course, support Blue Lives Matter for all they do for us. But that's not contradictory with Black Lives Matter, because Black Lives haven't mattered as much since the beginning of our republic, and are all trying. All right. Coronavirus, and we begin the onslaught. Tonight we have our first presidential debate, and things will get even more contentious. It's safe to say, there's no real evidence, that we have in Yorktown Trump lovers, Trump haters, the libertarian, socialists, moderate Republicans, moderate Democrats, and any other group you can think of. It is well then to remember that no matter what the outcome of the race, we will still be citizens of Yorktown. And our job is to work together to make it an even better place.
Absolutely.
John, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Great words as always.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Go to courtesy of the floor.
Our first person is Mr. Tony Grasso.
Oh, Mr. Grasso.
Hello, Tony.
Hey, Tony. Where are you?
It's connecting.
Connecting to audio. There you go.
Tony G. There he is. Oh, no, it's not him.
It's not connected yet.
I was looking at David again. He moved.
No way, Alice.
I'm telling you.
No, Alice.
He moved from there to there.
Diana, do we know if he's able to connect to the audio?
He's connecting.
Can you hear us, Mr. Grasso?
Yes, Mr. Grasso.
Yes.
We have it.
You know, I don't like to hear it once. Now I'm hearing him 100 times.
Is your TV on?
Tony, Mr. Grasso, can you mute your TV?
Yeah, turn the TV off.
Yes, please.
Mute it.
Now it's off the computer.
We can hear you.
That's okay. We can hear you now, though.
Hey, Mr. Grasso, how we doing?
Okay, I'm on our telephone.
Good to see. It's good to hear you.
Hello, Jenny.
You can't hear me?
No, we can hear you loud and clear. No problem.
Okay, thank you. Well, let me say this, Mr. Chairman. You inherited something awful in the beginning. No, this thing says leave.
Don't worry about that.
No, you're okay.
Please bear with me at 93. This is all new.
And zooming at 93. It's great.
Okay. It looks like my take got it all set up.
Is that better?
Yeah,
You got it.
Thanks, Jenny.
All right.
Oh, there he is.
Doing great.
Good. Anyway, again, thank you for setting this up. I want to thank Diana for doing it. I think it's great. Unfortunately, like I say, my age is against me. But thank God I have a tech living with me. Now, first, Matt, I want to thank you for your leadership here since January. I think you've done a terrific job, and also the board. The board's going along with the many of the things that you initiated. It's unfortunate that in the last two administrations, things were tried, and I will appeal with the previous administration on what's happening with the power. It's terrible. We could have done it, paid for, instead we lost money. I hear a lot of that.
Jenny, is Jenny holding on to the phone?
I turned it off already. It's all off now.
Okay.
Okay.
You guys go ahead. Give it to somebody young.
I have the phone and the TV.
We got you. No problem.
No, we don't have anything.
No, we don't have anything.
Tony, we don't hear you.
So, Jenny's got to unmute the phone. The
computer.
Yeah.
Yep. We just heard you. The Zoom, what you're holding, you got to unmute that.
At the bottom.
You had it before, the bottom.
I think that's on the computer, Jenny.
It looks like a tablet he's holding.
Oh, is it a tablet?
Okay.
Looks like a tablet or a phone. Tony, if you see that bottom left corner, it says mute. Hit that mute button. If you touch the screen on the bottom left corner, it says mute. See if Jenny can hit it. Jenny, on the bottom left corner, you see it there?
Yeah.
Yep.
You got it now.
You're good.
Okay. I'm just in my pajamas. I don't want to be on there.
Jenny, don't worry. Me too.
It's okay.
I think Cal is too. Counts good, man.
Anyway, again, like I say, this is new. And I want to thank you and the board for what you've done since January. I think it's just great. The cooperation has been good. Mm-hmm. And I think that's great. The one thing that I would like to comment on, there was a bid for a sweeper. I see that's on the agenda. However, when the notices went out, to me, it did not cover all the bases that it should have. Buying an old machine and paying $141,000 for it, I don't believe it should have had more accessories to it. I'm not going to bring it up because that might be something later on you want to talk about. But you're buying a used machine.
Warranty.
To me, I would ask, what does a new one cost? Why do we have to buy somebody else's wreck? It doesn't make sense to me. Anyway.
Thank you, Tony.
Thanks, Tony.
That's my sense for that. Maybe I'll try again another time.
You did good.
See what
It's good seeing you out here. Let me tell you.
Well, I miss Alice's laugh.
I miss seeing you.
Yeah. Well,
Good
maybe
night, everybody.
maybe we'll be back.
Thank you, Jenny. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Grasso.
You can call me Tony.
Anthony.
Yeah, Tony.
Good night, all.
Good night, guys.
Good night.
Good
Hey,
night.
Diana, who else do we have?
We have Mr. Sergio Espirito.
Sergio Esposito.
Hey, Sergio.
Sergio Esposito, president of the chamber. Serge, you're muted. You're still muted there, Serge.
Well, we could never figure out how to do that in real time.
Yeah, I know.
There you go. There you go.
You are a funny guy. I gotta tell you, this is.
He's sharp as a marble.
It's like that Progressive commercial. You know, Progressive commercial.
Yeah.
How's everybody doing tonight?
We're good.
Good, Serge.
So
Good, Serge.
I have a prepared statement. I want to read it, but before I get started, I want to just I want to thank Alice. Alice, you know, I always listen for people and the way they put things sometimes, and you put it so perfectly. You know, you support Black Lives Matter, but you also support Blue Lives Matter, and they're not mutually exclusive, and they don't have to be. And I think if everybody could see that, we'd really be in a different place. And I want to thank you for the way you put it. It was very powerful. But anyway, I was also listening to the stuff about Con Ed and being a Crown Heights resident. I can tell you that they are not grouping all of Yorktown as one thing. And I can tell you that Croton Heights is absolutely last on the list. I've been told that there's only like 12 people on our line and it's not important. One lady told me to if your food's going to spoil, to bring it outside because it's cold outside and to leave it outside. I mean, it's ridiculous. So whatever they were talking about, it's not 100% accurate. I can tell you by experience. But anyway, I wanted to address the vacancies in Yorktown. And for too many years, large commercial properties have sat stagnant in Yorktown. Elected officials from both parties have tried in earnest to entice these property owners to reinvest in their properties, but no real results have come to pass. In Yorktown, as you know, there are locations that have sat vacant and untouched for more than a decade. The Yorktown Chamber of Commerce, I'm sorry. The Yorktown Chamber of Commerce views these chronic vacancies and their lack of any attempt to be part of our community, not only as anti-business, but also as detrimental toward the existing investors, mom and pops, and citizens that call Yorktown their home and that strive to make Yorktown a better place. And, you know, I get flustered with that, for lack of a term that I'd rather use. It really upsets me. Despite efforts of the past to fill these vacancies, which have also included the numerous attempts of the Yorktown Chamber of Commerce, our community continues to be taken advantage of, and it has become clear to our organization that a different approach is desperately needed to have a productive dialogue with owners of chronically vacant commercial properties, provide transparency to the residents and businesses of Yorktown, and to finally establish some sort of accountability. For these reasons, the Chamber supports and applauds the recent proposal by Supervisor Matt Slater to institute required reporting by property owners with chronic vacancies. The Chamber believes this is a fair and measured approach following years of inactions by these owners. Rebooting our local economy must include all aspects of our business community. Yorktown has some very exciting projects, and we hope to see them to come to fruition. But the fact remains that these chronic vacancies are a proven challenge. And Supervisor Slater's proposal, with the support of this town board, who I want to replicate Tony's comments, Mr. Grasso's comments. You guys have been working well together. You know, it's a strong remedy that protects Yorktown and our business community. Now, that being said, you know, we're not looking, I don't believe that we're looking at every commercial property or just the ones that have been, you know, blatantly obvious and chronic. But it's important to note that that Yorktown welcomes all developers that strive to be part of our community. Together with a very proactive and business-friendly town board, these community partners should expect that the Yorktown Chamber of Commerce to stand at the ready to help assist and advocate for their interests and dedication to Yorktown. And, you know, I've met with quite a few commercial property vendors, developers, and that are actually interested in investing in Yorktown and being community partners. We want neighbors. We don't want just to be Yorktown to be some bottom line on some tax return, you know, that saves people money. I mean, it can't be that anymore. And I think you guys are all on the right track. And I wanted you guys to know that the chamber is behind it. And that we really, really, really need to push forward with this. It's kind of like baseball. I always like to speak in analogies. In baseball, if one kid makes an error, all of a sudden errors become kind of like they kind of plague the whole team. If somebody sneezes in a room, all of a sudden you have more people sneezing in a room. If you have these vacancies, they'll lead to more vacancies. They're not going to lead to the excitement we're trying to drum up and, you know, getting more people in here and getting these stores that are vacant filled. And so I just, again, Ed, I'll mute myself, but I just wanted to say thank you for you guys, to all of you for at least starting the conversation and taking the bull by the horns. And I applaud all of you.
Thanks, Serge.
Thank you.
Next.
Mr. Jay Kopstein.
Great. Mr. Kopstein, how are you tonight?
I'm doing fine, sir. How are you?
Doing good. Great to hear from you.
And hope everybody's well. And I'm glad to see Tony on tonight. Haven't seen him in a while. He's the conscience of the town.
He is. That he is.
He is.
At the last work session, Mr. Landy did a presentation. I think he's right on the money with the master fee schedule.
Okay.
The permitting for the town should not be a progressive tax, where if one person buys a cheap generator, for example, and somebody buys them an expensive generator, both 12 kilowatts, one pays more for its permit than the other, or similar things. The permits have to be consistent, and they shouldn't be progressive that if you spend more money, it costs you more money to have a permit.
I agree.
That's all. And again, I'm glad to see everybody is well and healthy. And Tony, stay that way, please.
Same to you, Jay. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks,
tonight.
Jay.
Thanks, Jay.
Next.
Mr. Dak Armstrong.
Great. Mr. Armstrong, how you doing tonight?
Hey, Dak.
I had to mute so that I didn't fall victim to the same situation. Can you all of you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yep, gotcha.
Yep. Great to see you.
Hello, good evening, everyone. So I do have some prepared statements from Yorktown for Justice, but before I make my comments, I just wanted to address Councilwoman Roker, and I was listening earlier when you were speaking about this incident that happened to you in town. I only know what is discussed here, which is not very much. So I want to send my thoughts and my condolences to you for that experience. No one should have to go through that.
Thanks, Dak.
And I really think that it underscores the work that Yorktown for Justice is really interested in doing within town. And it's not to divide us any further. That's one. And I know that people, have the motivation to want to use what we're doing and frame the conversation and say that what we're doing is divisive or anti-police or anti-this or that. That's just not the case. If that were the case, I wouldn't have sat with Chief Noble and spent my time or, reach out to members of the board as I've done and as members of Yorktown for Justice have done. So that's not really what we're about. I respect and honor and support our police departments and all of our first responders, and I consider myself as an educator one of those first responders who's up way too late to have to make it to school at 7:20. So there's a really good quote, if you'll allow me just an extra moment. There's a really good quote from a really good movie. The movie was Remember the Titans, and coincidentally, that movie is about bringing two sides together through football, through beautiful sports, and showing that we have more in common than we have not in common. And the quote from that movie was, "Attitude reflects leadership." Okay? Now, if you lead properly, people will follow you. Okay? So we have a lot of people yelling back the blue and Blue Lives Matter and Thin Blue Line, and that's all well and good, but I question why they're doing it, how they're doing it, and can we do it together as opposed to talking at each other and fighting each other. And I think leadership is going to be required from the board so that people are not in danger, as it sounds like Alice was. And if we are giving the proper message as leaders, then people won't feel a need to be violent, to be divisive, to cause, upheaval. So I just wanted to share that with everyone this late evening, and let you know, Alice, that we're with you. We support you. We support the board. We support our police department. With that said, I'd like to read some comments. Thank you for hearing me today. I would like to start with some comments involving the formation of the task force. In watching the board meeting leading up to and the formation of the task force, I have to say that we were disappointed in what we heard and what transpired. Based on preceding conversations, it was our understanding that Yorktown for Justice would be included on the task force. And then to find that we were not on the task force leads us to question things that we heard both in public and in private. Additionally, there were comments previously made about a fear of including people on the task force that had an agenda, quote unquote. That term is very concerning because it hints at the idea that there was a deliberate decision made to leave us off of the task force. And I want you to understand that we only have one agenda, and that is fair representation and inclusion. And that is what we should all be working towards. And so that leads me to some questions that I have for the board. I hope that you will answer them completely, and I will restate them if needed. First, what was the criteria used to choose the members of the coalition? As listed on page 110 of the Executive Order Workbook, have you reached out to residents who have had interactions with the police, residents who have been incarcerated, LGBTQ leaders and advocates, mental health professionals, legal and academic experts? 2, is there going to be an avenue for anonymous community feedback to the coalition? We believe that this is essential to ensure that everyone in the community is able to participate in the discussion. 3, how is the existence of this coalition and its purpose being communicated to the public at large? Are you posting flyers, posters in public locations? Will you be asking houses of worship to make announcements? And I just want to close by saying, going back to my quote, attitude reflects leadership. It's truly, truly unfortunate that Yorktown for Justice was at the forefront of this conversation around the task force. And then to see, months later that we're left off of the task force, I think that it is a sorely missed opportunity for leadership. It's an opportunity missed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dax. Anyone else for courtesy of the floor, Diana?
Ms. Sarah Wilson.
Great. Hey, Sarah.
Hi, Matt. Hi, board members and residents of Yorktown. I promised
Sarah.
to only take 2 minutes tonight. Can you hear me okay?
We can.
Okay. So I'm here to tell you about the Yorktown Repair Cafe. The last time we held the Repair Cafe was in January, but we will be holding it again this month in October, outdoors in the parking lot at Grace Lutheran Church at the corner of Curry and Gomer Street on Saturday, October 24th, between 11 and 3. What can you bring to a repair cafe? Lamps, small appliances, bicycles, clocks, fabrics, toys, wooden items, ceramics, jewelry, computers, and other electronics, even your sick houseplants. Anything that's broken is welcome. Our Repair Cafe volunteers usually have the know-how to determine whether your item can be repaired, and if it's possible, make the repair while you wait. People wishing to bring their beloved but broken items from home need to pre-register online via Sign Up Genius to select a time to attend. This will help us ensure that we don't have more than a few people waiting to be seen at any time. And even though we're outdoors, masks are required to be worn by all attendees. You can find the link to the sign-up form on the Town of Yorktown community calendar. Just look on October 24th and it'll bring up the link for you. Although we're called a repair cafe, we will not be serving any refreshments this time around, sorry. By promoting repairs instead of throwing items away, we can help reduce the mountains of waste which otherwise end up in our landfill. So far, we've diverted over 220 repaired items from the trash stream in Yorktown. That's it.
That was great.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
Do we have anybody else for courtesy of the floor?
I don't see anyone else.
All right. Motion to close courtesy of the floor.
So moved.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Comments from the board? A lot of notes just going over here. Any comments from the board?
Dave, do you want to address Tony's comment?
Yes, actually, I too will be at work at 6:30 tomorrow morning, so I'd like to address everything that's on the agenda moving forward. While I respect Tony's opinion, particularly since his brother-in-law runs a sweeping business and has done our sweeping for the town for years, I'd like to make very clear that this is not an old sweeper. We had the fortunate benefit of renting this sweeper this year, and we're able to do 1.5 times the town when normally when we subcontracted it out, we did about half the town. So we were fortunate enough to be able to go out to bid, and the bidder was the machine that we rented. So we had it for 4 months, and it proved itself a worthy warrior. And the fact of the matter is, it's a 2018. It has 7,800 miles on it, 960 hours, so it's virtually new. Chassis and motor are still covered under warranty. And to Mr. Grasso's point, a new one is $235,000. So yes, if you'd like to give me an extra, what is it, $95,000, be more than happy to purchase a new one. We try at Highway to make do. We don't have a sweeper. We haven't had a functional sweeper for years before I arrived at Highway. For a town our size, not to have a sweeper is an absurdity. So that's the answer to that. With respect to other things on the agenda, you'll see the $16,000 for the catch basin inserts up in Mohegan. That might lead some people to believe that that project did not come in under budget. That project came in $45,000 under budget. There were overruns, unfortunately, that had not been anticipated in the planning stages, such as an additional $9,000 worth of and these were safety concerns, an additional $9,000 worth of guardrail and $36,000 worth of fence so children don't fall off a 15-foot vertical drop. These things were not anticipated because no one anticipated the legal problems associated therewith. And what else do I have? Anyone have any questions on anything else I have? The rest are pretty simple transfers.
No, we're good, Dave.
Okay, very good. I hope everything goes as well. And you know what? We saw the need for a sweeper this year more than just calling a company when we had the entire town swept. And on August 4th, trees fell everywhere. And unfortunately, with the trees fell the leaves. So we've never been able to do any fall cleanups. And hopefully this will allow us to treat our town. Look, Greenberg has 4 sweepers, and they're the only comparable in Westchester County does. So, you know, I hope that won't be an issue. And thank you for your consideration. And that's it. I'm going to sign off if that's okay with everyone.
Go to sleep.
Okay, thank you.
Matt,
Thanks.
Thanks, Ed. Matt, I had 2 quick things. One, I wanted to comment with Mr. Kopstein, and I can't find my note. Hold on a second. Jay, I'm going to have to get back on it. Maybe I'll call him. I had a note here and I can't find it. The other thing, you know, the criteria on the task force. I just, you know, one thing that I think is very important, it sort of goes to what we spoke about before. Individuals look out different windows and have a lot of things to bring to the table. When you talk about an organization, I'm not sure, or a group, I'm not sure that there's a way to fit that into the task force without it becoming an overwhelming project with too many cooks, so to speak. So I think that the outlay in bringing in some different community members is a way to go. Matt, you probably have some more specifics on.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to discuss it and talk about it directly. Let me first say that I just want to thank Tony, and I want to thank him again for recognizing, as did Sergio, how well the boards work together. I think that's key. I think that if you're talking about examples of leadership, the boards, this board really has proven itself as leaders, not just for this community, but for this county, for this state, and frankly, I think for this country, because we have differences of opinions, we have differences of perspectives, but we have always maintained an incredible level of respect and civility for each other. And I think that's incredibly, incredibly important, especially when we tackle issues, whether it's the pandemic or the social justice issues that we're now tackling. To be able to have respectful conversations and learn from each other is key, and that's what I think this board is able to do on a regular basis. And I genuinely appreciate their perspectives and leadership along in that vein. So, Mr. Armstrong, the answers to your questions, criteria used to choose. The YFJ put a letter to the editor encouraging people to contact my office to participate in the process. To your question, LGBTQ, legal, academic, mental health. Legal, academic, yes. We have local residents who are professors of Pace University that I spoke with. Mental health, we have a trained mental health counselor actually on the panel who's going to be participating as one of the members of the task force. Residents did come, and I've stated this prior. I had residents say, put me on because I'm pro-police. Well, in my mind, again, and I actually differ slightly with Councilman Lackerman. For me, it's about roles. What are the roles? And we've been very clear that YFJ is going to have a role in this process. We want you to have a role in this process, which is why we've identified you as an invited community participant, putting you on the same playing field as our school superintendents, as Yorktown, the PBA for the Yorktown Police, The same playing field as Hope's Door, the same playing field as the Legal Aid Society of Westchester. That is, I'm in my mind, that is a prominent playing field to be a part of, and in no way diminishes your value, your organization's value or role. If anything, I think it does the opposite. And as for the conversation and comment about agendas, I don't think agendas are a bad thing, because if you want to have a real dialogue and a real conversation, I want to learn about your perspective. And that's the role that's the position that we've put the Yorktown for Justice in, to provide this panel with feedback, with insight. I don't know what it's like to grow up in this community and not look like me. I need to learn from others in this community. And I'm not going to be able to do that without people taking on the proper role. So frankly, solely, I took full responsibility of this because the governor of the state of New York in his executive order says the chief elected official. So yeah, you know what? I stood up and I took the reins and I ran with it. That's my thought process. And I think that thought process actually allows us, and I've spoken with you, I've spoken with many members of Yorktown for Justice. And I think that we have had some great conversations about where we want this community to go. And do I agree with everything I've heard? No, but it doesn't mean I'm shutting down. It doesn't mean I'm dismissing. It means that we have to have a further dialogue to further educate not just myself or members of the board, but people in this community. People in this community need to be educated. And I'll give you a perfect example. People might not like it, but there was a very upsetting incident that happened regarding Yorktown for Justice just this past weekend. They wanted to put on a documentary. Whether you agree with the documentary or not, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's a learning opportunity. I've watched the documentary. I've watched it. And do I agree with every word that was said in the document? No, I don't. But I got to see and understand a perspective I never would have been able to see or learn from before. And that's what we're trying to accomplish with this task force, is to put people in the current roles and the right roles so that we can maximize their value. And I just think for Yorktown for Justice, the best value we get as a community is to hear from you and to learn from you as an advocate. I think that's the best role, just like we are going to learn from and hear from the leadership of the Yorktown PBA, because I need to understand their perspective as well. And I think the rest of the community does too. So it's not dismissing, it's not eliminating, it's not it's not being disrespectful. I actually was trying to do the complete opposite. And I think that we actually can accomplish this. I'm very proud of the task force we put together. You talked about houses of worship and outreach. We announced it again. I announced it again tonight about the first meeting on Thursday. It's on the town's website. We put out a press release on it. We'll share it again on social media. Houses of worship. We've got frankly, I think Rabbi Robbie is the head of the Interfaith Community Coalition. And so Rabbi Robbie, I'll reach out to Rabbi Robbie to make sure that the other houses of worship are obviously engaged and people know what's going on. We're not trying to hide from this. We're excited for the conversation. I think that we're going to learn a lot from our police, and I think we're going to learn a lot from the advocacy of Yorktown for Justice. But it's just putting people in the right roles that we, as a community, are going to benefit from. So that's. I hope I answered all those questions that Mr. Armstrong provided. And are there any other comments from the board?
Yeah, I want to. I think I already spoke and said I was disappointed you didn't get a seat. However, I think there is opportunity there, and I welcome being a part of the hearings. But I did have a response to Sergio, because you are absolutely correct. The only way we're going to get these landlords who are habitual, what do you call them? Habitual people that won't fix up their property or whatever is to cost them money. there's nothing else they will listen to other than money.
Yeah. I can tell you this. From that one proposal, I already was getting text messages earlier this week from one of the landlords that we've frankly have identified as a chronic vacancy, and they want to know what they can do to talk. So I think that unfortunately we've tried to play nice, and I commend all the efforts, and I'm not trying to dismiss or belittle any effort that was made previously. I just think we need a different approach, and the approach is, from my standpoint, if we can say please until we're blue in the face, but if it's not going to turn into anything, then it gets to the point where don't mistake our kindness for a weakness, and we're going to stand up for ourselves as a community. And that's what we're going to have to do here, because I think everyone knows, and I think Sergio articulated it perfectly. Those vacancies really diminish the value that people see in our community. And I think it's enough. I think we can only ask please so many times. And so I'm done asking please, because honestly, I've called just about every landlord that I can get a number for here in town. And most of them are shocked that I was even calling, but the question is, what are you doing with your property? And if they're not willing to put a project on the table, or at least come to have a conversation with the town board about what they can do. The other thing I was going to mention, because this was brought to my attention earlier about blight, and the codes are already in place. We've already handed out over 300 violations this year. Our code enforcer has. So we're enforcing the laws. We're inspecting these when we can. We're inspecting these properties, and if there's problems, we're going after them. But I think we just have to amp it up and go to the next step.
Matt, just two things. I know that Mr. Armstrong typed in the chat there that he's not to forget the Islamic community, the cultural center, but I believe they're part of the Interfaith Council already.
They are.
Mr. Armstrong? Yeah, I know we were there when we did the mask handout with them, talking about that. Also thank you for clarification, Matt, on my point. Yes, I knew they were a group where they can really input there as a focus. And I did find my note about Mr. Kopstein. So I do want to commend John Landy a little bit, because over the month, especially dealing with COVID and the people coming in on permits, he was talking to a lot of people and hearing a lot of the different complaints. And I know that I've spoken to people that do work in the town who had problems with these inconsistencies. So, taking the initiative to put it together, come back to the board and say, hey, these are some areas that we need some change. It just goes to show the great work our building department's been doing and how they've been moving forward, and really doing some great stuff with the additions to the team there, and great job for them. So thank you.
And even moving I'm sorry, Ed.
Yep. No, go on.
Even moving one step further with the vacant buildings is the zombie law that we're creating at this point to hold either residents and or banks, etc., that houses are vacant, so that they are kept in repair and they're not falling to disrepair and devaluing the homes that are in the same neighborhood.
Or creating a hazard, Tommy, like that A-frame on Garden Drive that we worked on a few years ago.
Yep, that one we finally got taken down. Yep.
Very good. If there are other comments from the board, we'll move on to resolutions. We're going to start with personnel. We'll just do personnel, then we're going to go to public hearings. We're going to appoint Allison Egan to Librarian 2 at the John C. Hart Memorial Library. And I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We'll now go to public hearings. We have a public hearing to consider proposed local law amending Chapter 240 of the Code of the Town of Yorktown by adding a new Article 3 entitled Low Pressure Sewer Systems. I'm going to ask our town clerk just to show the I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Sorry. And we are joined by Michael Quinn, so our town engineer. Mike, can you just remind the public about this issue? It was originally supposed to be heard over the summer, but with the storm, we had to postpone while we wait for the clerk to provide the proof of notice.
Okay, sure. This is an addition to our sewer code. So currently the town code in the sewer section does not address the low pressure sewer systems. The last low pressure sewer system put in the town was approximately 20 years ago. It's along Route 202. So there hasn't been, the last many years, there hasn't been any low pressure sewers being installed. So there was a recent project, land development project on Jacob Road, where they proposed a low pressure sewer system. It requires county review and approval, and in working with the county officials and working with the supervisor's office and the planner, that we thought that it would be a good idea to put some of these requirements into the code. So future development projects, understand what the requirements are for a low pressure sewer system. And in the very basic sense, a low pressure sewer system is a pressurized line where everyone that's connecting to the town sewer has a pump system to connect. So normally you want a gravity sewer and there is no need for supplemental pumping. But there are certain instances where a low pressure sewer system makes sense. They make sense when the gravity sewers are going to be very deep. More than 15 feet underground is not a good use of a gravity sewer. And also when you're in the outer reaches of our collection system, there are examples. I know in our Hallecksmith sewer extension project, there were several areas that we thought the best option to get them connected would be a low pressure sewer system. So, I think in the coming years, there will be some demand for low pressure sewers. And so we're essentially codifying, the different requirements that go into it. And the elements being that there would be an engineering report done to look at the options. Is a gravity system feasible first? And then if not, then a low pressure sewer system can be considered. It does require either some backup power through an emergency generator or an extra holding tank. So in the event of a power outage, and I caught all the Con Ed discussion earlier, so in a power outage situation, there's enough capacity in these systems to still run. And so, several days, if there was no emergency power, the system would still have enough holding capacity to operate for a couple of days. And even in those systems where there was a holding tank next to the pump, there's also a connection for like a temporary mobile generator. So those are the type of requirements that are in this new code section.
Okay, thank you. And our town clerk did show the proof of notice. So we will open the hearing. Do we have any comments from the board before we open? Any questions for Mr. Quinn?
No.
Okay.
No, we've been over this a lot of times.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
All right. I'm going to go to our town clerk. She's got the roster for people who would like to testify.
Mr. Jay Copstein requested to speak.
Great. Mr. Copstein, hello again. Mr. Copstein, you're on mute.
Good evening again.
Good evening.
Good evening, Jay.
I think that our engineer did a very good job on this, along with our town attorney. I have one comment, and that's in 24018EB, where we talk about a permanent backup supply or 1 day's storage. We heard from Con Ed. I don't know that a year has gone by where I haven't been out of power for 3 or 4 days and portions of Yorktown for 7 or 8 days. I don't know if it should be one or the other and not both. And both being in case they run out of fuel for the generator, they have 24 hours to get the fuel. I have a concern that though we've heard from Con Ed and we haven't heard from NYSEG, that power outages exceeding 2 or 3 days are going to be the norm rather than the exception, and we have to consider that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kopstein. Diana, next speaker.
We have other people on, but nobody else has expressed that they wanted to speak. So I would open it up to anybody that's on with you.
Mr. Colangelo, do you want to say a few words?
I just want to thank everyone for putting this together, and thank for Michael Quinn and John Segater everyone that worked on this project. It's been a long project, and I'm happy to see it come to fruition. I just want to talk about what Jay had to say regarding the backup power. We are planning on using battery and solar power instead of using a combustible engine. So there will not be a need for more than a day's use of generator power, unless something malfunctions, and that's when we'll plug in a generator at that point in time. But we're trying to be off the grid as much as possible, and solar and battery power is what we're looking to achieve.
Very cool.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
Yeah, we appreciate that.
Any questions or comments from the board? No?
I ask Michael one question? Michael, does what Mr. Colangelo want to do, does that fit within the health department discussion with you?
That's a good question, Alice. I mean, I think that we'd have to review that with the health department. I think that my understanding of the emergency generators, that they were going to provide emergency generators, but I assume they were, a standard diesel generator. I love the concept of an alternate system that's more sustainable. So we'd have to circle back with them on it. And, the point about the power outage, if you're going, it's an emergency generator, it's a backup generator, or the 1 day of storage with a mobile connection, a quick connect for a mobile generator to be brought in. Mm-hmm. And I think the other important thing there is the 1 day of storage is something like 400, depends on how many bedrooms, but something like 400 gallons. So I think in a power outage, probably, most water appliances wouldn't be used. So I think there's, you probably have more than 1 day, but that's one design day that the system would be designed for. And there are the systems that are out there that you buy. You can buy that add-on feature to it with the 1 day of storage. So it's not like a huge added expense to put that in there. So I don't know if we want to, start making more than one of those available or required.
Can I just add to that? Each house that we're building, we are going to provide them with a backup generator that's with a combustible engine to meet the town code, but we're also, pushing the envelope with the battery powered solar power as the main source. So we're not
beyond I'm sorry, that'd be above and beyond the generator. So you're going to
correct. Yeah. So our primary source is really relying on the solar as the backup, but just in case that fails or something doesn't happen, each house is going to have a backup portable generator to, feed the line.
That's perfect.
Yeah. That's great.
But can I ask you a question? Everybody will have their storage separate in their yard, or this is the community's storage? I thought, they may have for all the homes, however, maybe, 3 or 4 or 5. So if there is a big one, then, they can call the septic cleaner or something, if there is really big need, emergency cleanup until they get the power, or they are going to, do it themselves.
So that, Yeah, I may not have made that super clear in the beginning, but the way that this code is set up is there's a very clear line of responsibility. So the pump system, the emergency generator, and or the holding tank, that's all going to be privately owned responsibility of the lot owner. The town responsibility starts at the property line, and so we would own and maintain the low pressure force main in the town right away. Right. So we're not going to own any of the equipment or the piping that would be on the private property.
But what I'm asking, Mike, is if somebody has a 500 gallon, or something like that, is there any way they would have something that they can call somebody else to empty up the septic just for one time, or if they have a 3-4 days like that, if there is no power, if that's available, then they are safe,
Right. Well, I think the way the systems are set up is you bring in a mobile generator, and these are very small generators that could power these things because only a circuit, and then the pump turns on and pumps it into the town sewer system. So I don't think that there's a way that you could you have to remove the pumps to get down into where the wastewater is. So more than likely you would bring in a mobile generator or borrow somebody's, maybe a neighbor or something, rent one, and then bring that in there, and you could turn your system on, pump it down, and then remove the generator.
Any other questions, Councilman Patel?
No, if there are commercial guys, they can pump it out too. Like there is emergency, that's good. I have no problem. Okay.
Great. I'm happy to entertain a motion to close the hearing.
Motion.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Hearing is closed. Great.
Everyone, have a good night.
All right. Thanks. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
We'll now go to a public hearing to consider the application. Good night. We're now moving on to the public hearing to consider the application filed by Danny Porco, New York Fuel Distributors, LLC, for a special use permit for a gas station located at Councilman Diana, 3700
Barger Street. Yes. Don't let me hear Barger.
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 All right, and we're joined by our town, our planning director, John Tegeter. We're going to ask our town clerk just to show us the notice. Very much. Perfect. Mr. Tegeter, do you want to just give a quick reminder to the board about the project?
Sure. The project is what is known as the old Getty Station. Up at the corner of Barger and East Main Street. And if, across the street from this is what is now the Yorktown Funeral Home. And the project is basically refitting this site with a gas station yet again. It will have a covered, a canopy. It will have additional pumps more than there is there now. The building will be taken down. It will be reconstructed in a repositioned spot on the site. And we have been working with the applicant to improve the operation of the site. And I think we've reached a point where we feel that it is worthy of public comment at the present.
Very good. Okay, and I know we have Leo with us. And Leo, who else on your team is here?
Rich Williams should be floating somewhere in the ether somewhere. And then Carlito Holt also, who I see has joined. I don't know if Rich is getting his way in. And also joining us, so there's Rich. Rich is our civil engineer, Carlito with Insight. Carlito is our traffic engineer with Provident. And then also joining are Hanny and Danny from New York Fuel, who are the project representatives.
Great. Great to see everybody.
Thanks for having us. So Supervisor Slater, would you like me to give a brief project overview for the benefit of the public, or how would you like me to handle that?
It's fine. You can do that.
Okay. So as John was mentioning, the site is located at 3700 Barger Street. It's the former Getty Station.
Barger Street.
Barger Street.
That's it.
That's how do I get into the other conversation?
Can I share my screen? Would that be okay?
Sure.
Yes, you should be able to.
All right. So existing site conditions are shown here. There are two curb cuts located on Barger Street, as well as the East Main Street frontage is largely dropped curb with no real defined beginning and ending of the property boundary. The proposed condition, and as John had mentioned, we've revised our plan based on a series of meetings we've been having with the town, is to close our northerly curb cut on Barger and to cycle all of our traffic in a one-way direction through the site. So in on the southerly, modified southerly curb cut, either to access the pumps, parking on the southerly boundary, or again on the northerly boundary, and ultimately exiting the site onto East Main Street. That's it in a nutshell. There will be Ford fueled pumps. There is also a convenience store proposed that's approximately 2,000 square feet. There will no longer be an automotive service and repair business on the property. So you will not see the vehicle storage that existed in the prior conditions. And the applicants provided the board with a traffic study, which largely shows that the project will have a minimal impact on the adjacent roadways. We've tried to adjust the layout of the site to improve conditions, mainly by eliminating the northerly curb cut, which was closest to the intersection of East Main and Barger. We're very excited to break ground, and I think with that, unless the board has any questions, we're willing to hear what the public has to say.
Any questions from the board?
No, let's just talk traffic.
Let's talk traffic. Where is, I'm sorry, you said Colito was your traffic engineer?
Yeah, good evening.
Hey, Carlito, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Doing good. Talk to us about traffic.
So, as mentioned previously, this was an existing gas station operation with a use, and you're essentially replacing it with a new gas station operation and a convenience market. And what that means from a traffic generation standpoint is essentially a wash. You know, there's during the peak AM hour, there's a slight decrease in traffic. In the peak PM hour, a slight increase in traffic. And overall, what we focused on was, even though there wasn't going to be any incremental change in traffic patterns from the existing use to the proposed use, how could you reconfigure the site to make it safer and more efficient? And as noted, the northerly Barger Street.
Can you help me out here? I'm trying to get out of this, move the screen so I can get out of the other conversation.
Hey, Diana, can we mute? I think there's
well, this one's the right one. The other one's like
whoever Chris is. If we can mute them, thank you.
There we go.
Continue, please.
So seeing that the proposed use from the existing use is essentially a wash in the way of traffic generation, we focused on with Mr. Tegeter, town has how we can enhance traffic operation and safety in this area, and that resulted in the closure of the northerly Barger Street access and the one-way orientation through the southerly Barger Street access, and then all exiting to East Main Street. And again, East Main Street right now is pretty much one long drop curb. There's no controlled access along that portion of East Main Street. So now you're creating a more controlled access point along East Main Street. So overall, what we found is that since there's no real change in traffic overall, the number of trips in and out, this project provides a benefit by enhancing safety and efficiency in this area.
Okay, moving your cursor on the screen show me the entry and exit for tractor trailers bringing gas in, because there is always an issue when they deliver to the East Main Shell station where they can pull in, but they must back out. So it becomes a dangerous situation.
Carlito, let me jump in. Rich Williams with Insight.
Hi, Rich.
How are you guys? Leo, if you actually scroll farther down in the plan set to our last sheet, we provided all the turning templates as part of our submission.
Ah, there we go.
We wanted to be sure for ourselves that it would work.
Yeah, yeah.
The sheet.
So we looked at several different maneuvers. You can see the top 3 viewports along the top of this page, demonstrating how vehicles could move in and out of the site and back up, how the refuse closure can be accessed, which is located to the side of the building. That was one of the requests we worked through with the planning department. But that first viewport in the upper left-hand corner shows how the tractor trailer can pull in, maneuver around the canopy, stop over the tanks, and then continue and pull through back out heading towards Route 6. In part of our discussions with the planning department, the owners are willing to restrict the times that the fuel trucks fuel off hours to ensure that we're not impacting the main through traffic on Barger and on East Main.
Looking at the left-hand top picture, the left-hand side top, is that going to be a curb there, or could they pull straight over the tanks, basically coming off Barger Street, heading towards Route 6?
This is a curb area here.
There's going to be,
what's that?
There will be a curb line parallel with Barger Street and an island. We're actually increasing the amount of lawn area on that whole corner just to create some more landscaping and break up the sea of asphalt.
Yeah.
As you move through our site where the hand just was, that's all open asphalt. There'll be a curb to the following that hand. You're basically following the curb line now. And the width of our entrance was designed to accommodate the truck.
All right. So the entrance actually would be coming off of Route 6, for argument's sake, coming and making the turn and going towards the gas island there, or is it coming off of Barger and making the turn?
The latter would be coming off of Barger.
You're coming in off the totally curb cut here, and then coming in between the curb line and the first set of pumps.
Because quite frankly, most of the trucks, to my knowledge, will be coming off of Route 6. So that'll be a jack for them to get in there, which would be, they're not going to come 202 for the most part.
Danny and Hanny can explain better than I, because they're actually in the fuel distribution business, but they have a lot of control over coordinating how deliveries, when deliveries are made and brought in and out of the site.
Okay.
Danny?
Okay. Good evening, everybody. So you know, we can make and adjust and discuss a planned schedule of deliveries with our transportation company on making off-peak deliveries as needed. You know, foreseen on this type of location, we're probably looking at one to two deliveries a week, which won't be a major impact. I think looking at that, at the plant, we're projecting to have the trailer come in off of Barger into the site.
And that's something we can have an instruction, a step-by-step instruction to the transportation company so they can follow, not to come in from Route 6, but always come from Barger Street.
Okay, because Route 6, because that would mean them coming down 202. Oh, they're going to come the way they're going to come. But okay, I mean, I'm just looking for, and I know the way the guys do it. I'm in the transportation business also, so I kind of know what they go through. So I was just trying to think for the most safety, and I think what you're probably going to see is them come off of Route 6 and make a jack into that parking lot right there, go across the where the island is, and then go to your gas pump. Your gas tank area to drop.
Again, we can have a specific instruction for them, and our video cameras will monitor this on a delivery basis. Just making sure they don't jam us coming in from Route 6. We can even accompany them in the first few weeks to meet them at the site and just make sure that they do it the way we want it done.
Right, and the only reason I'm saying that is because I know how they come in off of Route 6, how the traffic flows off of Route 6 at any hour, and if they're coming in and making a left, a left into the gas station off of Route 6, it's going to be a T-bone situation.
Yeah, correct. And they might get a little, they might choose an easier way. I agree with you. That's why we want to make sure that we give them an instruction step by step.
I mean, if they came in off of Route 6 and came in over by where you have the parking area to the right and came in that way, that's fine.
Yeah, we can do that. Now that you mentioned, we can do that as well.
I was trying to think where their drops would be on the passenger side of the truck. So you're if the truck fits underneath that canopy, you're fine. Okay. We'll have to see how it works. Okay. Just a matter of safety.
Any other questions from the board before we go to open to the public for public comment? No? Okay, then we will go to public comment. We'll go hand it over to our town clerk, Diana Quast. Diana, can you let us know who we have for public comment for this hearing?
I have no one that requested to comment unless they're on with you now.
Okay. Is there anyone on who would like to speak on this hearing?
I think this is a much better plan than the one that was originally presented to the board.
Rich worked his fingers to the bone to get this one squared away.
Appreciate it. We appreciate it.
Everybody did.
Yeah.
Okay, so
just real quick, Mr. Tegeter, everything, I know you had quite a few concerns originally. Everything was addressed, as I remember correctly. I just want to make sure. Anything left lingering?
I wouldn't say there's lingering issues with this layout. It's come a long way. Rich and the team did a great job. In design, there's an adage that says your design is never done. So I don't put the pencil down until the shovel goes in the ground. So.
And what are we figuring for completion? November 1st?
That was good, Tommy.
All right, December 1st.
We're excited to get started with construction drawings, so
okay.
We'll be in as quickly as humanly possible.
Great. My phone will stop ringing.
I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We'll have, I think just like the other, we'll have Adam prepare the final resolution for the next meeting.
Will do.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks for working with us, guys.
Thanks to everybody.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
All right. Got both public hearings are closed. And we will move on to resolution. I'm going to start. There were several resolutions that came out of closed session that I want to start with, so I don't forget them at the end.
Okay.
You unplugged. So we're going to begin. I'll read them in their entirety. Be it resolved that Deanna M. Peterson of Montrose, New York, is hereby appointed Recreation Assistant, Job Class Code 0269-02, effective October 7th, 2020, to be paid from Yorktown CSEA salary schedule A1 Group 3 Step 3, which is $46,422 annually. Be it resolved contingent upon successful completion of a drug test and reference checks. Be it resolved that Deanna M. Peterson will report to work at the Recreation Building on October 7th, and this date will be used, on October 26th, and this date will be used as the first date of appointment. Be it further resolved that this appointment is subject to a probationary period of no less than 12, no more than 52 weeks, commencing on the first date of appointment on October 26th, 2020. Motion.
Motion.
Second.
Second.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Resolved that the supervisor is authorized to execute an agreement with Divinity Medical Services PLLC for the provision of flu shots for town employees in an amount not to exceed $3,000.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I will be abstaining from this vote. My wife is an employee. Resolved that Patricia M. Barisi is hereby appointed to serve as a consultant to the John C. Hart Library for $75 an hour, not to exceed 20 hours per week. Motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. This last one is a bit long, so I'm going to read it in its entirety. It's a railroad station restoration change order request number 4 to remove. It's the removal of stove and interior benches. Whereas the town board of the town of Yorktown on July 2nd, 2019, awarded Klumpko Construction and Restoration Inc. for restoration of the Yorktown Heights Railroad Station building in Railroad Park. And whereas said contract was awarded for a maximum amount of $476,386. And whereas 3 change order requests have been approved by the town board as follows. CO number 1 on September 24th, 2019, addition of the performance bond and labor and materials payment bond included in the bid in the amount of $12,431. And CO number 2 on December 17th, 2019, adjustment on performance bond and labor and materials payment bond in the count of $850. And CO number 3 on February 18th, 2020, addition of a window to the east elevation in the amount of $7,640. And whereas the town board has authorized a maximum of $497,263 for this contract. And whereas due to COVID-19, the metal brackets to hang the benches in the waiting room were not made by Metal Fabricator because their workshop was closed, and they have indicated to the town's contractor that they will not be able to make them on time to complete the project. And whereas the town's contractor has tried to source metal brackets from other supplies prior to the project end date of July 2nd, 2020, and was not successful. And whereas the planning department recommends removing installation of the benches from the current restoration project and rescheduling the installation as a separate project once the metal brackets can be fabricated, and this would reduce the current contract by $6,200. And whereas restoration of the stove was included in the contract for this project, however, there is no adequate space inside the station to display the stove and achieve the goals of the town. To use the station as an information center and light concession stand, this would reduce the current contract by $2,600. And be it therefore now resolved, the town board eliminates the installation of the benches and restoration of the old stove from the current project, thereby reducing the current contract by $8,800 to a total of $488,463. Entertain a motion?
So moved.
So moved.
All in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we'll go back to the resolutions that are on the agenda. I will take them. We'll do them all together and pass them all at the end. The first is to authorize the supervisor to execute an agreement with Westchester County Refuse Disposal District Number 1 for the county to accept and process the town's solid waste and recyclables at the county's material recovery facility. Authorize town clerk to advertise bid for preventative maintenance and on-call services for emergency generators. Authorize the town clerk to advertise public hearing to consider a proposed local law amending Chapter 300 entitled Zoning of the Town Code by adding a new Article 11 entitled Plan Design District Overlay Zones. And this will take place on October 20th, 2020. Also to authorize the town clerk to advertise public hearing to consider proposed local law amending Chapter 300 of the Town Code entitled Zoning by modifying Section 300-75A regarding self-storage warehouse operations. This will also commence on October 20th, 2020. Authorize the comptroller to release escrow deposit for driveway permit number DR 1228 in the amount of $500 for work done at 1842 Baldwin Road. Authorize the comptroller to release escrow deposit for street opening permit number 018-012 in the amount of $2,000 for work done at 3211 Lakeshore Drive. Authorizes the supervisor to sign an agreement with Cortec Inc. to conduct inspection service of the French Hill and Mohegan water storage tanks for a cost of $5,850. Authorize the supervisor to enter into a license agreement with 3151 Stony Street LLC for the use of the licensor's property near Granite Knolls Park for 2 ADA parking spaces and use of access road. Authorize the comptroller to process the following budget transfer for the Parks Department. Authorize the comptroller to process a budget transfer for the Highway Department. Authorize the comptroller to process a budget transfer also for the Highway Department. To award a bid for a 6-wheel street sweeper and authorize comptroller to process the following budget transfer for the Highway Department. Authorize the extension of stone, gravel, concrete materials bid for the Highway Department. Authorize extension of bid for dewatered sludge removal and disposal, bid number 18-2, Spectra Serve, Inc. Authorize the supervisor to sign a letter of authorization for the Hearthstone subdivision 3138 Hearthstone Street. Any discussion on those?
No.
Then we'll take a motion.
So
move. Give a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's passed unanimously. And now we will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
So move.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Nay. Yeah, aye.
Stay well, Yorktown. We're your
Good
man.
night, everyone.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you.